Welcome everyone back to the Real News Network. I'm Jared Ball here in Baltimore. During a recent interview for the alternative media daily news hour Democracy Now!, longtime activist, scholar, and icon Angela Davis spoke some about the recent visit to Cuba by President Barack Obama. Specifically, Davis noted the absence of media coverage of that trip focused on Cuba's acceptance and protection of Assata Shakur, the former Black Panther Party political prisoner who escaped U.S. custody in 1979 and eventually made her way to Cuba. Here is some of what Davis had to say in that interview.
I've been involved in the campaign to save Assata's life for all of those decades. And now, of course, as there are new openings with respect to Cuba, we welcome the end of the embargo, the blockade. But at the same time, we have to be attentive to what this might mean for Assata.
Now, while many on the left may appreciate the inclusion of this coverage and at least some discussion of Assata Shakur and political prisoners, our next guest says that there are problems associated with the approach often taken by those discussing these and related issues, problems exemplified in that Angela Davis Democracy Now! Interview. Dhoruba bin Wahad is a former member of the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, and was himself a political prisoner for nearly 2 decades as a result. He joins us once again from Atlanta. Dhoruba, welcome back to The Real News.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you for having me on the program.
So in a recent Facebook post, Dhoruba, you said the following, quote, Angela Davis's appearance on Democracy Now! And Goodman's representation here is somewhat opportunistically playing on Hollywood's fabrications and current events highlighting the U.S.-Cuba normalization process rather than an accurate assessment of Assata's past, Black Panther Party, and Black Liberation Army involvement. Democracy Now! Selects commentators on My Comrade's history that legitimize its status as alternative media while abetting this stealth history of armed black radicalism. Dhoruba bin Wahad, again, welcome back to The Real News, and please, if you would, share with us a little bit, elaborate a little bit on your critique here.
Well, you know, for several decades now, for several years now, the popular notion of Assata Shakur as a counterintelligence COINTELPRO target is somewhat inaccurate. Not that the Black Panther Party wasn't a COINTELPRO target, but Assata Shakur herself wasn't a COINTELPRO target as such. Later on, after the discovery of the counterintelligence program and the shooting of policemen in New York on May 19th, on Malcolm X's birthday in 1971, Assata became, the federal government became aware of Assata Shakur's membership in the party and her role in the Black Liberation Army. And from that point on, after a White House a meeting with Ehrlichman, President Nixon, and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, it was decided that the government would launch an anti-urban guerrilla program, a program designed to destroy what they perceived as the Black Underground, or the beginning of a Black Underground, an armed resistance to state violence. And they focused on the East Coast Black Panther Party. They called it the Cleaver faction of the Black Panther Party. They focused on that, and they focused on that in order to destroy the capacity of black people, of black activists, to continue to function underground or in a clandestine mode. I think it's very important for people to understand that the history of this era, of this period, has been marginalized. It has been rewritten. It has been, I call it stealth history. It has been appropriated by different organizations and groups and individuals who at the time, in the context of the times, were not really involved in the level of struggle that the BPP was involved in or subjected to the type of repression that the Black Panther Party was subjected to. Case in point is Angela Davis. Angela Davis was not a comrade of Assata Shakur. She did not know Assata Shakur prior to maybe her visiting Cuba over the past several years. Assata Shakur came into the Black Panther Party, into the Harlem office, and I was one of the first individuals that recruited her into the party. She was a student at City College in Harlem, and she lived in Harlem, and she entered the Black Panther Party as a medical cadre. And she served in that capacity as a medical cadre until the split in the party, and the New York Panther Party went underground. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that Sundiata Acoli, and who is now in prison, I believe he's 83 or 84 years old, Zaid Malik Shakur, who was killed on the turnpike at the same time that Assata was captured, were all together on the New Jersey Turnpike on that fateful day. And people come to the conclusion, or they post up, that Assata is innocent, and Assata herself has said in a communique to the Pope of the Catholic Church that she was innocent. And I just wanted to point out that Assata Shakur's guilt or innocence, just like Mumia's guilt or innocence, is irrelevant. The guilt or innocence of our political prisoners and our captured comrades is irrelevant because there was a war being waged on us, and we have the right to defend ourselves. And in the course of defending ourselves, in the course of waging the struggle from a clandestine position, people on both sides, both police officers and our comrades, were killed. That's what happens in war. That's what happens in struggle.
But Dhoruba, if I could just interject here briefly, because we only have a couple of minutes left, and I at least want to raise this question, but isn't the fact that Angela Davis, because many of us who work in media or who are activists who would want to support the struggle of political prisoners and that of Assata Shakur specifically, we didn't know her either. We didn't work with her either, certainly at the level that you did and many others. So isn't there value in Angela Davis appearing and at least raising the name of Assata Shakur as someone to be supported, or isn't there value, and wouldn't it be seen as irresponsible for her or anyone else in popular media to be seen as supporting armed struggle?
Well, I think, of course, it's appropriate, and rightly so. I'm not criticizing Sister Angela Davis for raising the issue of Assata Shakur. What I'm criticizing is the fact that even within the left and in the popular and progressive movements, the understanding of what Assata Shakur actually represented, the politics that she represented, has been pushed aside, has been shoved aside. Just like in the recent documentary, Vanguard of the Party, the politics of the Black Panther Party, its analysis, its positions that it's taken, were all shoved aside and all pushed into a corner. What Bernie Sanders, for instance, is talking about socialism and about the need for a revolution in the greater American society in order to bring about a more equitable relationship between the citizens of this society and their government, is something that the Black Panther Party has always talked about. It always talked about a revolution in the mother country, which we call a white America, and a liberation struggle in the African American community for self-determination, for Black power, for Black independence. And so when we push that politics aside, when we just say, well, Assata is innocent and she's a fugitive and we're worried about her, people don't understand that the reason why the Cuban government has given Assata Shakur a sanctuary and asylum is precisely because of the politics of the Black Panther Party and its international relationships at that time. We had relationships with the Palestinian people. We had relationships with the Palestinian movements. We had relationships with other left organizations throughout Europe. We had relationships even with North Korea. In fact, the Black Panther Party sent a delegation to North Korea in 1969, 1970. And it was an official delegation from Algeria. We had relationships with the ANC, with the MPLA, with all of the liberation struggles around the world. And not because we carried guns or had a big afro, but because of our politics. And so when people classify Angela as just an innocent victim of police repression. They failed to realize that Assata Shakur was an activist. She was a revolutionary in the Black Panther Party and in the Black Underground, in the Black Liberation Army. And as such, she was targeted by the U.S. government for murder, for assassination, and for neutralization. And defending herself when attacked, when trapped, when attacked, was something that we felt very strongly was our right to do. So if you're attacked by the government, by a racist police department, and they attempt to take your life, and you defend yourselves, and the police officers that attack you lose their lives in the equation, then we need to rethink the whole idea of guilt and innocence. We need to really deal with that on the same level. No one considered Nelson Mandela innocent of the charges that the South African apartheid government brought on him, because he was leading the armed struggle of the ANC at that time. And so when he was pardoned, it was a recognition that this was a valid movement, that this was a movement for liberation, this was an armed struggle that was legitimized under the United Nations Charter, Freedom Charter. So we need to understand that the Black Liberation Army was an armed organ of the Black movement, and as such, it carried out those operations and those activities that armed movements do carry out. But because we've had people who've never supported the Black Panther Party's position on this, such as the Communist Party USA, which Angela Davis came out of. She came out of the Communist Party USA. She was never a member of the Black Panther Party. The reason why we know about Angela Davis's history in the 60s is because of her relationship to George Jackson. And George Jackson at that time was a comrade who was given the authority to recruit for the BLA and recruit for the Black Panther Party in prison. And his case became a cause célèbre in the movement at that time.
But Daruba, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us at least this little glimpse at the stealth history you're trying to continue to unearth. And we want to continue to try to support you in that endeavor here at The Real News. But thank you again for joining us, Daruba bin Wahad.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us here at the Real News Network. For all involved, I'm Jared Ball again here in Baltimore, saying as always, as Fred Hampton used to say, to you we say peace if you're willing to fight for it. So peace, everybody, and we'll catch you in the whirlwind.
Sold as a slave in Africa to an European. Oh yeah, I was bound in chains and taken beyond to the Caribbean. Oh yeah, new faces that I met, saying they are my master. Teach I to be like fools. Jaja used to cheat on the Bible rules. I and I for tools. It's a good thing I stick to your golden rule. I never miss a day in school. Teacher, she teach I to analyze. I invert my life situation. Then I really get to realize, say, a Rasta man first brings civilization on ya. Right, ya. Rasta civilize ya, on ya. Israel, your history say, from 1655, we have been working on the same plantation, chanting the same recitation, saying, Jaja is loving and who don't love him never know Jah. Oh no, they never know Jah. Oh no, no. Robbing Jaja got the master key and a Rasta man bring civilization on ya. Right ya, Rasta civilize ya on ya. Israel, your history say from 1655 we have been working on the same plantation, chanting the same recitation, saying Jaja is loving and who don't love him never know Jah. Oh no, never know Jah. Oh no, no. Babylon, you are a lie, old fox. Lock you in the box and I throw away the key for all those tricks you play when I was me. Jaja got the master key and a Rasta man bring civilization on ya, Rasta civilize ya, on ya, and a Rasta man bring civilization on ya.
Yeah, so we see where Mr. Warmington was secretly sworn in today. In fact, the information minister, poor Mr. Reid, principal at JC, the man, the education man, and also in charge for information, up there talking and saying, boy, I don't know nothing about that, Then all of a sudden the man go away and come back and say, well, in fact, Mr. Warmington was sworn in this morning. I heard somebody say, boy, wrong ministry. Because, he's a state minister for works. But they say it's the wrong ministry. They should put him in the foreign ministry so that he can take on the people down at Trinidad. What a life to see how that go. Yeah, so secretly sworn in, as you know, is a man who don't like the media. So we hear the Prime Minister say he's a very hard worker, and many people might say that for true, that him is a hard worker, but him don't treat us good in the media at all. He's a man who put up all him finger towards us, tell us to go to hell, all sort of things. But he's now the state minister for work, so we have to contend with him. So let's see how him deal with us. As you know, Professor Beckles has been one of the leading fighters for this whole reparations business. People continue to put up them scorn towards it and say, boy, it's a thing that not going to work, and all sort of things. And, some people think say it's about money that is going to go into your pocket and all sort of things. But we know it's not that. This is what people like Walter Rodney usually do when he was in Jamaica, trying to enlighten people about our situation. And of course, we know the story about Walter Rodney when he went to Canada for some Black Writers Conference, and when he came back to Jamaica, they declared him persona non grata back in 1968. And I know enough people know about the Rodney riots and so on. And but it's the same thing that Professor Beckles doing. It's the same thing now that Rodney usually do.
In the 18th century, British merchants shipped around 3 million people from West Africa across the Atlantic to the Americas and sold them into slavery. They made £4 trillion from the unpaid labour alone. Portugal and Holland pioneered this slave route. Britain made a national fortune from it. Much of the Britain we know today was built with slave money. Ports, cities and canals. Even the Church of England has admitted making money from the slave business. By the 19th century, a fifth of the British elite had made their fortunes from slavery. Among them, David Cameron's distant cousin, General Sir James Duff. The Liverpool merchants who founded what's now Barclays Bank were slave traders. In 1833, when slavery was abolished, slave owners were paid £20 million in compensation for their loss of property. That's £2 billion today. More than 10 million people died as a direct result of the Atlantic slave trade, but the survivors got nothing. West Africa, nothing. Now 15 Caribbean states, including Jamaica, have launched the first united campaign for reparations from Britain, France and Holland. They have suggested compensation equal to the sum offered to slave owners in the 1830s, £2 billion. They also want an apology.
Don't blush.
Recognition of the historic atrocity.
They hid in caves. My great-grandmother was born in a cave to make sure that she was not born as a slave. And that is what Britain perpetuated.
But the British government has refused to give either. David Cameron's first official visit to Jamaica has amplified calls on Britain to agree to reparations. Some argue that if Britain did pay, it wouldn't be the elite footing the bill but the tax-paying working classes. Others have said this was 200 years ago, it's in the past, why should I pay now? In Jamaica, slavery was followed with a century of colonialism.
Most of the land is still in the hands of Europeans.
When the Brits left in 1962, 80% of the population were functionally illiterate. Male literacy remains 4 points below the global average. 19% of the country live in poverty. When historic crimes have generational victims, who should pay?
page is white. Together we learn to read and write. To read and write. A child is black, a child is white. The whole world looks upon that side. A beautiful sight. And now a child can be a sin. This is the law above the land, above the land. The world is black, the world is white. It turns by day and then by night. It turns by night. And now at last we plainly see the happiness of liberty. Liberty. The world is black, the world is white. It turns by day and then by night. A child is black, a child is white. Together we go to see them all. To see the light. This is the message. To see the light. All the people. Peace and love. The ink is black, the page is white. Together we learn to read and write. To read and write. A child is black, a child is white. The whole world looks upon that side. A beautiful sight. And now a child can be a sin. This is the law above the land, above the land. The world is black, the world is white. It turns by day and then by night. It turns by night. And now at last we plainly see the happiness of liberty. Liberty. The world is black, the world is white. It turns by day and then by night. A child is black, a child is white. Together we go to see them all.
So as I say, we have a very important public lecture that was done by Professor Hilary Beckles. He's the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies. Him coming out of the high class of the university and going public with this very important information for us as black people in the Caribbean who are descendants of people who suffered at the hands of Great Britain and all those European countries that participated in the greatest crime against humanity, slavery. And he was the guest speaker. The topic there was Reparatory Justice for Global Black Enslavement, the greatest political movement of the 21st century at Harvard University.
Thank you so much, Master of Ceremonies, for your very generous introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. It is for me an honor and a privilege to be here with you to have this conversation. This is not a lecture. This is what we call in the Caribbean a little old talk. And that is what it's going to be. And it really, really is truly a privilege and an honor to be here with you. We are fortunate to be living in times of great transformation. We have seen in the last decade or so tremendous global changes. Most of them, I believe, for the good, not all for the better. But we are living in times of change and transformation. We're all hopeful that the world will evolve into a much better place for our children and our grandchildren. And in this regard, my own contribution to this reparatory global discourse is to that objective. I do this daily because I am a positivist, I am an optimist, I am a humanist, and I believe that the world must be shaped by the finest thinking available to us so that we can enjoy whatever humanity has to offer. Recently, I was privileged to be a part of a conversation when the British Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron, visited Jamaica. It was an historic occasion. No British Prime Minister had visited the former British colonies in 15 years. He admitted on his tour that yes, Britain had neglected its former colonies in the Caribbean. He also admitted that that will change and that his visit was part of a new dialogue which was going to open between Britain and its former colonies in terms of a development strategy. That news was welcome by the region. And also welcome was his idea that he did not wish to participate in a conversation about the history of Britain in the Caribbean. He did not wish to speak about slavery. He did not wish to speak of the colonial past. Britain had taken Jamaica from the Spanish in 1655 and had ruled Jamaica until 1962, when Jamaica forcefully demanded its independence. And so he said, there will be no apology for slavery, there will be no conversation about reparatory justice. And this is what he said. He said, I acknowledge that these wounds of slavery run very deep indeed. But I do hope that as friends, and we have gone through so much together, that those darkest of times are now behind us. And that we can move on from this painful point, from this legacy, and continue to build for the future. He promised £350 million in Caribbean development projects for the region. He also promised £25 million to build a prison to host Jamaican prisoners who would be repatriated from Britain and serve out their sentences back home. This relationship between the £350 million for infrastructural works and £25 million to build a prison in Jamaica to allow Jamaica to accommodate Caribbean prisoners who ran afoul of British law created a remarkable conversation in the country and in the region. This £350 million was defined as a down payment, and the whole region wondered, a down payment on what? The significance of it, though, was that Mr. Cameron, who is 6 generations removed from his ancestor, Sir James Duff, who had received £2 million in contemporary money for the 202 slaves he owned in Jamaica. And the legacy of that massive compensation for slavery has passed on to the Prime Minister. The question is, if we are going to move on, can we move on without the £2 million that his ancestors had received back then for the 202 Jamaican slaves that they had owned? Admittedly, Jamaica was the Caribbean's largest slave market. The British imported into Jamaica 1.3 million Africans. At the end of slavery in 1838, there were 300,000 remaining. The question has to be asked then, how do you reduce 1.3 million people to 300,000 after 200 years? Less than 25% survival. Slavery in Jamaica was genocidal. We understand then that when we speak of slavery in the context of Jamaica, in the aftermath of Mr. Cameron's speech, we are speaking also about the genocide on that island. 3 months earlier, the French president, Mr. Hollande, had also visited a Caribbean colony in Guadeloupe. He too said there will be no apology for slavery and there will be no reparations. But he was in Guadeloupe to open a multi-million euro museum dedicated to slavery as a gift from the people of France, so that the African community in the French islands could see the horror of slavery displayed in their museum. He went on to add that France owes the people of the Caribbean a debt of gratitude. But this gratitude would not be expressed in either an apology or in any form of reparatory justice. All of this came against the background of what had transpired in 2001 when President Aristide of Haiti demanded the return of the 150 million francs that France had insisted that Haiti pay for their own self-liberation. You may recall that Haiti had fought a war of liberation, declared their independence on the 1st of January 1804. The Haitians were the first people on this planet to give Napoleon Bonaparte a whipping. And in return for this whipping, France insists that if the Haitians wish to be recognized as an independent nation state, they will have to pay compensation to their former enslavers. 1825, the Haitians are celebrating the 21st anniversary of their independence. France had refused to recognize Haiti as an independent nation. All the slave-owning nations of the Western world, Britain, Spain, Portugal, Holland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, the United States, all said they will not recognize Haiti until the French recognize Haiti. The French said, if you want recognition, you pay for it. The Haitian people in 1825 had therefore a decision to make on their 21st anniversary. There were parties in Port-au-Prince, but there were also French gunboats in the harbor. The Haitian cabinet met and agreed that they wished to be reinserted into the international community, and this reinsertion would cost them 150 million francs, which is 21 billion US dollars in contemporary money. This money was paid, agreed to be paid, and was paid to the French government over 100 years. This extraction of economic value out of Haiti in the first 100 years of its nationhood crippled that nation. In some years in the 19th century, the payment to France in reparations accounted for 60 to 70% of the foreign exchange earnings of that nation. Aristide asked for the return of this money to the people of Haiti. He wrote to the French government government to government, calling for the return of this money. The French government invaded Haiti. Aristide was overthrown and removed from office. His successor, his first public statement was that the claim for reparations and the repayment of this money was a criminal act and removed from the state. And therein was the end of that conversation. President Aristide had acted against the background of the UN conference in Durban in South Africa on race, xenophobia, and related intolerances. The American government under Bush had pulled out of this conference on the basis that any discussions around slavery and reparations were internal national issues and not to be ventilated in international fora. President Clinton had earlier expressed a statement of regret on behalf of the American state, but had also refused to apologize. President Obama followed the Bush-Clinton line and also indicated that there is no need for a formal apology. President Holland did state in Guadeloupe that history cannot be the subject of financial transactions. President Obama declared that the discourse on reparations and reparatory justice is divisive of the nation state. The Western world, therefore, seems united in its opposition to the concept of reparatory justice for the people of Africa. And so there seems to be a Euro-American alliance that stands in solidarity in opposition to justice for the enslaved peoples of the modern Western world. But yet, the conversation continues. It is growing in intensity. And as one of my colleagues have said in Guyana a few days ago, the water is boiling and someone will have to make the tea. But the discourse is as predictable as it is despicable, claiming as it does an attachment to the values of democracy and the sensibility of democracy. The British formal position, let's all move on as friends. The American position that it is divisive of nation building and therefore not in the national interest, followed upon the British position in their parliament in 2008 when the British were celebrating the bicentenary of the abolition of their slave trade in 2008. The British House of Lords debated this matter. The conclusion of the House of Lords is that yes, slavery was a crime. Yes, slavery was an evil, and that the British state participated in a crime and in an act of evil. But there is nothing that can be done about it, because the enormity of the crime is too large to contemplate. This crime, the global dimensions of it, the moral dimensions of it, the sheer evil of it, it is too large to contemplate reparatory action. In other words, according to the House of Lords, the crime is too big to be filed. And so we have two concepts: too big to fail and too big to file. These are powerful concepts. They all speak to the existence of the powerless in societies in the face of national and global crimes. They all suggest that modern law, and we are here in Harvard Law, that modern law is crippled in the face of this crime. It is recognized that it is the greatest crime of modernity, but there is nothing that can be done. Law, philosophy, and politics have come to a gridlock in the face of the recognition of the crime. The challenge, though, philosophically and legally, is that democracy, we are told, cannot accommodate itself to reparatory justice for African folk. Too big to file. It all happened a long time ago. Let us move on. Have joined with some earlier concepts, such as, I cannot be held accountable for the crimes of my great-grandparents, and that there can be no resolution to this injustice. All of us in the Western world then seem to have gone into a cul-de-sac, and our intellectuals have not pointed the way out. Gridlock, therefore, seems to be the state of affairs in respect to democracy and reparatory justice. All of this has converged around the most extraordinary achievement of democracy, the device we all know as the national interest. The national interest is a remarkable 17th century invention. It's an invention that enables the state and the powerful to make judgments on behalf of the powerless and to sustain their authority over time in the face of adversity and criticisms from the majority of peoples. It is a concept that is fluid, it is volatile, and it is commercially available. It's a concept that can go to the highest bidder, but prefers to be dressed in the finest and most sophisticated garments. It comes wrapped in beautiful legal and philosophical discourse, but in effect, it is a device of the powerful who defined for all of us what is in the national interest. So I wish to make a few comments then about the auctioning of this concept of the national interest. In the 16th and 17th centuries, there was a strong argument that said slavery was not in the national interest. Across European countries, there were conversations about what to do with this form of labor. In most countries of Europe, and also in the early years of the colonies of this country, there was a formulation about slavery as not in the national interest. The vast majority of citizens in Europe, and also in these colonies, would have argued that this is not for the betterment of mankind. We see a change in this concept in the middle of the 17th century when slavery is emerging as a replacement for white indentured servitude. And in this context, we have the philosophical articulation of John Locke. Now, all of you here as students, like myself, many decades ago, would have been raised up on Locke on liberty. All of us were forced to read his treatise on liberty, and that was the beginning of our consciousness in terms of the articulation of the foundations of political democracy. But John Locke resolved this matter very skillfully for the British and for the Europeans. In his work on liberty, he argued that the African people are outside of humanity and therefore cannot be subject to the principles and the values of democracy. They are outsiders to the concept. Locke was able, therefore, through that mechanism to resolve the contradiction that appeared in Western philosophical thought. It enabled Locke then to become a slave owner. He was a major investor of slavery in the Bahamas. He owned plantation stock in the Bahamas. He was also the corporate secretary of England's largest slave trading corporation. And yet, while accumulating his wealth from slavery and slave trading, he wrote beautifully on the theory of liberty. All of this made perfect sense because he had resolved the contradiction to allow the West to go forward with slave owning as in the national interest, while at the same time formulating the theory of democracy and freedom. Then in the 18th century, across the Western world, slavery was defined as in the national interest. Now, in every instance, all of those many voices that rose up against slavery in Britain, in France, in Germany, in this country, all of those intellectuals and poets and theologians and common folk who turned their minds and their values against slavery were defined as not acting as citizens in their own national interests. And they were brushed aside. All of those opposition voices, and there were many very skillful, passionate opposition voices in the 17th century, in the 18th century, standing against the proliferation of this system of labor and human degradation. Those people were brushed aside and pushed aside as not serving the national interest. Remember when Wilberforce made his first great statement against slavery, the King of England, a slave owner and slave investor, called upon him as a member of Parliament and threatened him to be very, very careful that you, sir, as a member of the British Parliament, you are standing against the national interests. Wilberforce persisted. By the early 19th century, the conversation has shifted. Powerful voices now turn against slavery and slave trading as not in the national interest. And we see in the 1820s the rise of this liberal perspective that says slavery is a crime, slavery is a sin. No one who has Christian values can be a slave owner. And suddenly the tide turned against slavery, and the British Parliament finally overwhelmed by the argument that slavery is no longer in the national interest, thus emancipation. So we see the rise and fall of this concept, and we see it every day in our lives. All of this is linked directly to the contemporary discourse in this country of the Black Lives Matter movement. This is just the second phase of that movement. In the 17th and the 18th century, there was a Black Lives Matter movement. The slave owners of this country, of this hemisphere, all argued that black life mattered. In fact, nothing mattered more than black life, because the economies were built upon black lives. The inventories of their estates, the productive structures of this country and all of the Caribbean countries, their accounts, their balance sheets all showed that outside of land, the most valuable asset on the books of every enterprise was black life. And therefore, black life mattered most. Remember that the slave laws of this hemisphere were written to protect black lives. Slave owners could be punished. Slave owners could be and were punished for taking black lives, because it was seen as a destruction of the most valuable asset of this hemisphere. The most valuable productive asset of this hemisphere was black life, and slave owners could be punished for taking black life. In the Caribbean colonies, you could be punished 15 pounds sterling for taking a black life, even though you were the owner of that black life. It was with emancipation. It was with emancipation across the hemisphere when the black life reduced in its economic significance to white enterprises, where black life no longer mattered as much financially, that there was this wanton taking of black life. The state and the law no longer protected black life. Those who took black life went unpunished. And therein lies the contradiction, that you could take black life 100 years earlier and pay a heavy price. And now you can take black life and don't pay that price. I am currently writing a manuscript on the strategies of taking black lives. I'm writing a book on the subject, Methods of Punishing Black Folks. And so far, I have identified over 1,800 ways to kill black people. The classical things that you know, the boiling in oil, the hanging, the lynching, the dismemberment, those were just the tip of the iceberg. I have an inventory of over 1,800 methods and means that were used to take black life in this country and in this hemisphere. It became a work of art to devise new ways, new and creative ways to punish and to kill black people. I wish to tell you two small stories before I go any further. In 2008, I was invited by my alma mater, the University of Hull, a university built around the legacy of the great William Wilberforce, humanitarian and justice advocate, to establish an institution for justice in his name. I was honored to do so, and I agreed. There would be a formal ceremony at the Prime Minister's residence at 10 Downing Street, and we would be hosted by Mrs. Blair, the First Lady of Britain. And I was asked to make a few comments after that formal dinner. It was agreed that the institution will be called the Wilberforce Institute for the Study of Slavery and Emancipation. The acronym being WISE. WISE is now a well-established institution in British academia. In my after-dinner speech, I thought how much better it would be for the future, for the younger generation of scholars, for younger generations of students, if such an important institution would not be called the Wilberforce Institution for the Study of Slavery, Emancipation, and Reparations, in which case the acronym would be WISER. I was asked politely if it was my intention to undermine British policy, but I made the reference in jest, but it was the most serious of references you can imagine. Then last year we had the most extraordinary visit to our University of the West Indies. I had just been appointed Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies. As you know, we have 3 campuses: Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad. We have an open campus. We are a university of 65,000 students, the largest regional federal university in the West Indies. And we had the honor and the pleasure of hosting President Obama. It was the most extraordinary event. I had the honor of shaking his hand and welcoming him to our university. But in the midst of that welcome, I was so aware that our campus in Jamaica, built on a slave plantation, that our ancestors who had worked on that slave plantation for all of these centuries, our ancestors who had been buried on the campus, and recently we were involved in the building of a new medical faculty. And while the construction was going on, the foundation was being dug, up came these bones from the foundation where the medical faculty was going to emerge. We had no idea that we were excavating the slave cemetery of the plantation. We stopped production, did the needful things, the ceremonial things, and so on. And while my mind was engaged in all of that, I was welcoming our esteemed president. And in my spirit, I felt that there was a connection between all of this. I felt a sense that there was a connection between this history and the present. The fact that our ancestors' bones were being dug up as the president was coming to our campus. It was a most extraordinary sensation. And for that reason, that moment will always resonate with me. That visit of Mr. Obama, our ancestors' bones spoke to us, unearthed and spoke to us, and that there was a message for Mr. Obama. I will speak to that message later on. And so we recognize that I am now the Vice Chancellor of a university with 3 campuses, and each campus is built on a slave plantation. I came from Barbados, where I was the principal or the provost of a campus. And one of the last things I did before I gave up that position was to honor the memory of those enslaved Africans who had worked on that land before the campus was built. We have a monument on the campus called Quaw's Quest in honor of a gentleman called Quaw. Quaw was just 3 years old when he was brought to Barbados as a slave aboard a slave ship. His parents had been murdered in a slave raid on his village. The child was thrown onto the slave ship and brought to Barbados. Quaw is bought by a gentleman who too has a 3-year-old child. And he bought Quaw as a present, as a toy for his son. They grew together. Quaw's genius was recognized by his owners. They found that he had, as a child, a phenomenal intellect. Taught himself to read, to write. Mathematical capacities were extraordinary. They asked him to take responsibility for the accounts of the estate. Slavery comes, slavery ends. A church is built on the plantation. 2 weeks at emancipation, the Church of England is looking for a sexton for the new church. The sexton, as you know, is the person, the officer of the church, who takes responsibility for all of the events of the church. Marriages, baptisms, all the public events of a church are taken care of by the sexton. Quaw becomes the sexton, the first black sexton of the Church of England anywhere in the world. And in 1854, there's an outbreak of cholera, and he is lying on his deathbed. And he gives his testimony on his deathbed. He says, I came to this colony as a child of 3. Parents lost. I am now married, 4 children. My family is rebuilt. I am a teacher. I'm a preacher. I'm a professional man. My quest is over. And so we call this monument Quaw's Quest. The first teacher on the land where a university campus is now built. This is the history all of us have to deal with. How the past speaks to us in the present. Then there is the narrative of one of my predecessors, Sir Arthur Lewis, who I'm sure you all know, Nobel laureate in economics, the first vice chancellor of my university, professor at Princeton, Manchester University, everywhere, one of the finest intellectuals of the modern world. But in 1938, as a young graduate, 23-year-old graduate with a PhD in economics, London School, brilliant young man, he wrote a little book called Labor in the West Indies. And in this little book, he says, the economics surrounding the development of modernity are well known. We can all account for the rise of the Western world. We can all account for the emergence of global capitalism. We know the benefits that global capitalism have brought to humanity. But, he says, this matter of 200 years of unpaid slave labor is yet to be addressed. That was before he received his Nobel Prize. 1938. That is what he said. He goes on to argue that until this matter of 200 years of unpaid slave labor that built this modern world is addressed, democracy and the West will be on trial. And that we must find a way to address this matter if we consider ourselves as Democrats. Now, let us historicize that for a moment. That there is a relationship between democracy and what Quor had experienced. The raid upon his village, the destruction of his parents, and his thrown onto a slave ship to labor in the Caribbean. That we now have on the one hand democracy, but we have a history of terrorism. The slave trade was nothing more than unleash terrorism upon the people of Africa. And this unleashing of terrorism upon the people of Africa went on for 400 years. But this terrorism and the democracy that we all are now a part of are connected by this middle passage. We have the records of all of those kings of Africa who stood in the way of the slave trade and slavery. And those who stood in the way of this crime, instructions were given from the British government in the records of the Royal African Company to assassinate those leaders who stood in the way of the slave trade. Understand this, the Western world was in need of cheap labor. Capitalism was in need of cheap labor. African labor was the source of energy that drove the Western enterprise. Fast forward 400 years. We are now having a conversation about alternative energy, renewable energy. The conversation in the 17th and 18th centuries about cheap labor is the same conversation as the conversation today about cheap oil. The language, the narrative, the paradigms are very similar. Cheap labor, cheap oil, energy. And so we had a land grab in Africa, a labor grab, now followed by an oil grab. The energy debate of today is the same debate as the slave trade debate of yesterday. And in much the same way that President Obama's 21st century alternative energy victory must be celebrated, it was nonetheless the second part of a conversation launched by Abraham Lincoln for an alternative source of energy to drive the American economy. In other words, slavery was not the energy source that was now required. We now need another source of energy. And so President Obama, President Lincoln are linked at multiple levels, but they are critically linked in their search for an alternative form of energy to drive the economy of this country. Terrorism, alternative energy, and the contradictions of democracy, as I have said, have been resolved. And now all of us are asked to deal with this discourse around reparatory justice. But those who argue against reparatory justice, when you examine the assumptions of those arguments, whether legal, philosophical, social, moral, whatever the assumptions of the opposition to reparatory justice for African peoples, they converge around a simple point: that the African peoples of the Americas might have a moral and legal right to justice, but they are not deserving of reparatory justice. Unlike all the peoples of the world, these people are not deserving of reparatory justice. Reparatory justice, we all know, is about power. Who gets reparatory justice are those who are able to win the discourse of power. The weak, the disorganized, do not get reparatory justice, unless it comes at the end of a journey where that group is facing extinction. And when that group is facing human extinction, then the conversation might change around reparatory justice. We have seen this in the context of indigenous people on the verge of decimation being the subject of reparatory justice. The Caribbean has now thrown itself into the vanguard of this process. All of the governments of the Caribbean met in summit, examined the historical details of this case, and have agreed that the powers of Europe, the slave-owning nations of Europe, that they all have a case to answer. CARICOM, the Community of the Caribbean, has therefore broken ranks with Europe and America. The Caribbean governments have broken the gridlock. The Caribbean governments have determined that the future of democracy has no integrity without a discourse of reparatory justice. And why? Because this is the final stage in the evolution of our democracy. For 300 years, for 500 years, the indigenous peoples, the African peoples fought to remove genocide and slavery from our culture of civilization. They fought against it. They were in the vanguard of all those democratic sensibilities we speak about: justice, equality, freedom. They fought. After 300 years, we were finally able to uproot slavery from our world. Chattel slavery. What the enslaved of the Caribbean describe as the barbarity time. That's how the former slaves used to refer to slavery, as the barbarity time. The time when barbarity descended upon the world. Barbarity. Then it took another 150 years of struggle to get the right to vote, to walk the streets, to live in communities. After 300 years of fighting against slavery, another 150 years of fighting for the right to vote, for civil rights, social justice. Finally, we are in this stage now, final stage, where we are talking about reparatory justice for this history. This is where we are. This is not going to go away. This is not going to be brushed under the carpet. This is going to be the world's most powerful and evolving political movement in this 21st century. All over the world, where these crimes have been committed, citizens are going to be rising up and calling for justice. It is a turning point in our culture of the world. It's the beginning of a new dispensation. It is not about retribution and anger. It's about atonement. It's about the building of bridges across lines of moral justice. And I am in full agreement with the Pope, who said this is not a time to be building walls. This is a time to be building bridges. Because we all know what a bridge is. A bridge is just a wall turned the right way up. That's all it is. Or the right way down, as you might wish to imagine. And so we are into building bridges. Bridges across cultures, civilizations, bridges with an objective of world peace. The CARICOM governments have taken that bold step, and they have established a commission of inquiry to carry out the necessary work to formulate a strategy of reparatory justice to move these societies forward. They have approved what is now called the CARICOM 10-point plan, the 10 issues around reparatory justice. Issues about development, housing, healthcare, education. Issues about social justice, infrastructural development. Critically, what CARICOM has said is that this mythology perpetrated by those who are against justice, that reparatory justice is about black people standing around on street corners expecting charity from white folk. That is the myth that is used by those who campaign against reparatory justice. It's about black folks in a mendicant, subordinate way, looking for charity. Another level of charity. This is what they say. It is not about those issues. I am the chairman of the CARICOM Reparations Commission. I am not and will never be a part of that kind of discourse. I am concerned about the eradication of illiteracy, bad health, bad housing in the societies that have been ravished by slavery. I have said to the British Prime Minister and to the British government in their own parliament, you have left the Caribbean world in a royal mess. You have left the Caribbean world in a royal mess. Come back and help us to clean up that mess that you have created. That is what reparatory justice is about. I live in Jamaica. That is where the Vice Chancellor of the university resides. When Britain gave Jamaica its independence in 1962, 80% of the black folks in Jamaica were illiterate. And this is after 300 years of extracting wealth from Jamaica, the richest colony in their history. The colony that gave them the global push into Asia and everywhere else. Jamaica, the land where the Prime Minister's ancestors made their fortune. 80% of the people were left, and they were told to go and develop.
This for the cutting edge tonight, you know.
I spent 6 years as a student in the Faculty of Economics. I have seen or heard of no economic model, no economic paradigm that will enable a society with 80% illiteracy to develop. The people of Jamaica, nonetheless, have done very well to convert that mess they have inherited from the British government into a sustainable nation state, and they must be congratulated. All of the Caribbean societies inheriting this mess went to work in an act of self-help to carve nations out of this mess. My island where I was born, Barbados, is very proud of its democratic culture. But this was the first slave society in the modern world. The first society in the Americas where African peoples outnumbered Europeans, Barbados. And now we celebrate Barbados as the center of democracy and freedom, because the formerly enslaved people took it upon themselves to build that tradition, to turn slavery on its head and create societies based on freedom and justice. This is our achievement. This is the achievement of people who have been enslaved, to turn history around and point the world in the right direction. And so we are saying, and we are urging, and I can think of no other place to do this than here in Harvard Law, the home of our esteemed president, to join with CARICOM. Join with CARICOM. Establish a national commission in this great nation to examine the history and the legacy and the consequences of slavery with a view to building the foundations for another round of civil rights and human rights in this country. Urgent. urging that he use his considerable global influence, to help to shape this 21st century around reparatory justice. And when I had the honor of meeting with him at the University of the West Indies, I felt the ancestors were speaking to me to tell him this, to say to him, welcome to Jamaica, welcome to a slave plantation where we have built a university. We are proud of your achievements as a great leader, but your ancestors are asking you to do one final thing. They are crying out from the graves for reparatory justice. And let me say this. How many of you have seen President Obama singing Al Green at the Apollo Theater? On his visit to Jamaica, he said he grew up under the influence of the remarkable music of Bob Marley. Well, I'm going to sing a little Bob Marley for the president. Old pirates, yes, they rob I, took I on the merchant ships. Redemption song. Redemption song for the president, who we're asking to take this one final step. For Bob Marley, for all of us who are committed to reparatory justice. We celebrate what he has done for the people of Cuba. We celebrate the opening he has given for the people of Cuba. Reparatory justice will mean, in this country, in the Caribbean, that no child will be able to say, I can't breathe. No child will say, I can't breathe in this civilization, in this land, in this country. Therefore, on the next occasion that I'm invited to this distinguished university, I hope it will be to participate in the open ceremony of the Obama Center for Reparatory Justice at Harvard University. All of us as academics, as scholars, must stand for justice. We give solidarity to students in this university and all universities around the world who are standing up and demanding that their university environments be ethical environments. I have just visited Oxford University just 2 weeks ago and had the great honor and privilege of addressing faculty and students at that university, now appointing its first vice chancellor, who is female, after 700 years. But I was able to say to students and faculty there, yes, Oxford University has been a part of a certain imperial history that have celebrated and empowered white supremacy, racism, depredation of cultures. And I recommend this to the Vice Chancellor, that the way around this, Oxford, the University of the West Indies, the University of Johannesburg, where Rhodes is recognized. How about an Oxford, Johannesburg, University of the West Indies Center for Global Justice? Let us turn this history around. We cannot bury it because, as I have said, when we bury this history and we go to put up buildings such as medical faculties, we then dig up the bones. The bones are everywhere. They're everywhere. There's no point in burying the legacy and the memory as well as the bones. Let us bring everything to the surface and find a way forward through all of this. I thank you for the generosity of your attention. I thank you.
All right, a speech there by Professor Hilary Beckles at the Harvard University, looking at reparatory justice for black enslavement. One here, Muta, you know, Muta over there in Turkey, same tune in. You know late, Tracy? Hours in the morning, Muta not asleep. Yeah, man. Heal up the great wonder, man. Hope you tune in. You see, we're not straight. We are keep the message the same way, for the people out here in Raiderland listening to IRA FM on the cutting edge. The message is about mental liberation for the African peoples. So we just heard there from Professor Hilary Beckles looking at reparatory justice for the global black enslavement, and you see, 102 years ago, Marcus Garvey traveled, the places around this Western Hemisphere. It was the same thing. Everywhere him go, black people were at the bottom of the pile, suffering. He asked the question, where is the black man empire? Where is the black man navies on the sea? Where is the black man Wall Street? Where is the black man satellites? And 102 years later, we still asking the same thing. Where are all of those? We come through one of the wickedest atrocities in the history of humanity. And we own people don't like we hear we talk about it, but we have to talk about it. Because if we don't talk about it, then it's very likely that the same occurrence will happen in some shape or form. As you heard in the lecture, the word democracy, when they were coining the word and the whole capitalism in the 17th century, it was designed to keep out black people. And it's the same thing we have been seeing over and over and over again. Anywhere where capitalism and democracy is, black people is divided or black people is at the bottom of the pile. People don't like hear we talk about Africa, the cradle of civilization. Sir Hilary, what he's doing and what he did is the same thing what Walter Rodney usually do in the 60s here in Jamaica. He usually go out in the ghettos and try to enlighten the people, because him just never feels lecturing in the university at the time. It wasn't working out. So he had to go out in the street and tell people about them history, how great they are and how great they can be. But the Jamaican government never liked him, and the Jamaican government declared him persona non grata, grounded him at the airport, and he couldn't come back in Jamaica again because of the same thing you just heard from Professor Hilary Beckles, the same thing Walter Rodney usually do. So we're glad for people like these who see the necessity to go out there and enlighten our people and try to bring back justice to a set of people who were wronged and continue to be wronged. And one of the things that we as a people, we hate ourselves, we don't like, the black and black killing is one of the wickedest things, because I saw it set. We were the creators of arts and sciences. They stole our arts and sciences from Africa. Check your history books. The richest man who ever lived in the history of the world, the richest man was a black man named Mansa Musa, who ruled the Mali Empire in the 12th and 13th century. Bill Gates, Buffett and the whole of them, Rockefellers and the whole of them, the wealth that this man had, quadruple whatever the wealth that these men have nowadays. So we have a rich history from which we can draw on to guide and to shape our future as a people. And reparations is critical for all those slave-owning countries to impart back on the mess that they left us, both economically, physically, mentally. Mentally is one of the worst things. We suffer from a serious state of mental slavery, even up to this day. A very, very serious state of mental slavery in Jamaica and in the Caribbean and in the black world in particular. Very few people see the light and try to fight, but the very few people who see the light and try to fight, them keep them down. Them don't want to hear, they don't want to see them talk, they don't want to see them try to uplift. As they start to talk about, see, we are talking about black thing and slavery and rape. We see it even on the football field, where racism continues to rear its ugly head in the sport. And a lot of people say, well, they might make them money and this and that and all sort of things, but that is beyond. When you have your own dignity to deal with, when you have your own rights to defend, don't come tell me about, boy, I make my money, you know. And that is one of the problems. A man might have him Rolex watch, him big house up on the hill, prettiest and fastest car, and thinks that is all. No. We don't even start yet. We have to find a way. We have to. That's why we give thanks to a program like this, Cutting Edge. It has gone 20 years now. Remember, as a youth growing up and I listen to this program, and it is an honor for me to be on it now. To remind our people that we are great people. We have to shape the society in which we want it to be. We have to do it. We have to try to get out. We have to try to get rid of the nastiness. We have to do it. We have to grow in our children in a society which we want to be prosperous, which we want to be something in which they can grow in peace, love. Recently we say a survey, we say 80% of the young people in Jamaica want to migrate. Now that is serious. When I go to some countries, and the youth have not so in Jamaica. Very few youths want to stay and build this country. And sometimes when you see it, you can't even too say nothing because it's what them grow and say. And the whole political system, the whole divisiveness, the whole, you know, the economic mess that we were left in. As you hear the man say, you know, when Jamaica received its independence in 1962, 80% of our population was illiterate. 80%. Check the records and check. But we have done well as a people. And hats off to the greatness of the Jamaican people. But one of the things that continues to keep us back is the whole divisive nature of our governance, our political system. And that is a thing where continue to keep us back, and that is one of the things that continue to not inspire our youth to want to stay here and build a society in which we want it to be. Still a great country, great people. We have, when you look at a country that can produce people like a Marcus Garvey, a Joel A. Rogers, a Usain Bolt, a Bob Marley, a Burning Spear, and we can't go on, and we can't go on, and we can't go on. There's something about this country. But the mess that was left back by the slave-owning countries on us continues to affect us to this day, mentally, economically, physically. And that is why we always have to fight. We can't care when nobody wants to say, we're going to dip on the radio till thy kingdom come, until this thing set in order where we have reclaimed what we are about, our greatness as a people. We have reclaimed our status in the world affairs. If Europe is for the European, if China is for the Chinaman, if India is for the Indian, if England is for the Englishman, then Africa must be for the black man. If it's not physical, it must be mental. Africa.
Jamaica is what I see. A new Jamaica for you and me. A new Jamaica is what I see. A new Jamaica for you and me. Images, them feeding on my mind. Now I am a slave, I feed them paradigm. Can't find happiness without money, me get trapped. Paper currency, squatter what them call we in our own land. 3,000 acres for the Chinese man. Bolt can't live nowhere near Barbican. Him have a little money but wrong complexion. Him have a little money but wrong complexion. No black skin workers too much to the sight. No Jamaicans on the beach unless your skin color right. Reparatory say about no US money. Them keep it to themselves and take it out the country. Working hard, I have a plan. 7 a.m. for the cash pot man. Just join the line and play it cool. Tomorrow you'll see you're just a fool. Tomorrow you'll see you're just a fool. A new Jamaica is what I see. A new Jamaica for you and me. A new Jamaica is what I see. A new Jamaica for you and me. Me put in a the politician. Me money buy less devaluation. Them say less cornflakes, more green banana. We say less hardy and more Toyota. Green card and houses in a Miami. The American dream, a nightmare for we. Them come back, just forget them dog and left for with bruise. Them leader, ya a fraud. Them leader, ya a fraud. Them say IMF, we have to take the bitter pill. Cause of them it's a help and now we pocket it a kill. So why you a worry who me call Friday night? Where is your plan to fix our plight? The more we a vote, the more tax we a pay. Suppose we no vote, can we find another way? Me step out of the box to set me mind free. Tired to eat me brother, cause him a PNP. Cause him a PNP. My people have eyes, but still they cannot see. Them call we dirty labor right and dirty PNP. Wish evil upon your brother, then evil you will see. Cut them out of your life and deal with unity, unconditional love and positivity. It is written we are God's one family. Fear no one but God, the Almighty. The kingdom of heaven is inside of you and me. Inside of you and me. Inside of you and me. Images, them feeding on my mind. I am not a slave, a your paradigm. A new Jamaica is what I see. A new Jamaica for you and me. A new Jamaica is what I see. A new Jamaica for you and me.
England is a bit. England is a bit. When me just come to London town, we used to work on the hotel. And after a while, he was doing quite well. Them start me off as a dishwasher, but when me take a stop, me no turn clock watcher. England is a bitch. There's no escaping it. England is a bitch. Nobody try to hide from me. When them give you the little wage pocket, most them wrap it with the big tax rocket. You have to struggle to make ends meet. And when you go to your bed, you just can't sleep. England is a bitch. There's no escaping it. England is a bitch for true. I no lie me I tell a true. Me used to work big bitch when it hold no bitch. Make it strong like a mule, but why me get fool? Then after a while me just stop the overtime. Then after a while me just put on the tool. England is a bitch, a bitch, a bitch, a bitch. There's no escaping it. England is a bitch, a bitch, a bitch, a bitch. You have to know how to survive in it. Well, me do day work and me do night work. Me do clean work and me do dirty work. Them say that black man is very lazy, but if you see how me work, you would have said me crazy. England is a bitch. There's no escaping it. England is a bitch. You better face up to it. Them have a little factory up in a Broccoli. In a this your factory, all them do is pack crackers. For the last 15 years, them get me labor. Now after 15 years, fall out of favor. England is a bitch. There's no escaping it. England is a bitch. There's no running away from it. We know say them have work in abundance. Yet still, they make me redundant. Now at 55, me getting quite old. Yet still, them send me to go draw door. England is a bitch.
Sense a million, you gotta give thanks and praise unto the Almighty Lord God Jah. Oh yeah, do it Jah. Murder. Make under, make king up. Him name Jehovah, Jaman make under, make king up. Him name Jehovah. Him inspire me to be a mic chanter. Me mass with the mic round the amplifier. Me fling when the slackness can no one culture. They conscious lyrics and go hear me utter. So if you want an adult or a teenager, say every day you wake you feel read a chapter. Beginning of wisdom is the fear of Jah. The bottomless pit make we throw Lucifer. They take away we gold jam and them take we silver. Them king me poopa and rape me mother. They ship we from the wonderful land of Africa. This slave in the plantation owner. They take away we name jam and them call with nigga. The bongo word we no eyes to come in there share. They tell we say we ignorant and inferior.
Why you look Jagger, you know? Jagger back into the place. And the whole Tex Lane crew, downtown, the whole of downtown and south and North Street and the whole of down south. South Bottom, South Camp Road, Franklin Town and Rallington Town and Dunkirk. Why you the whole of the people I'm in tune to the cutting edge right now. Fletcher's Land and them place, the TG. Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, man, good evening. Man.
Yeah, good night, yeah.
Yeah, man, yeah, one of the youth who come from Trinidad, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, the deportation, that not ever so bad concerning when they turn your back. There are some system up that go on when them hold your dad's way. Wicked.
Alright, where you got to?
Yo, let me tell you. So first thing, when you overspend your time, right?
Oh, we are talking about Trinidad now, right?
At Trinidad, we are talking about that. So them say you must come in. You look for your paper for the 5 years and so. This when you go, them hold you and them lock you up. See? When them lock you up, I go and them put you on. You see me? You have a man who did the immigration and do some things where him don't tell you him don't like outside Jamaicans. Him tell you that. As you go there, him don't care where you want, so him just deport you. You see me? Yeah, when him deport you, what him do? Him say you can plead the case and you get a liar. The liar now will take 10,000 from you. For you to get a SI again, you have to stay 9 months to 6 months before them hear your case again, before you go before him. And then he might take $5 grand from the liar, and the liar take $5 grand. and then deport you. You see them, I tell you about them, I give you good food, no goes of that. The food of them give you, daddy. Them give you one little, then give you a tea bag, then give you a little sugar with them give you on plane, and one little milk like that with them give you on plane to mix tea. The earring with them give you, remember you're not prisoner, man. You understand? Yeah, what them do, some man get a youth go there and them hold the youth in her car and say the youth weed and the liar let the judge find him and let him go. When them try now to go pay the money, the man them call it police, them call it immigration, and the immigration them hold the youth while like first month him up there. Some get 6 months in a book. Them hold him and tell him month run out and lock him up. And when he reach 6 months, them say overstay and deport him. You understand? I saw them and deal with you. Them and man I'll call you a girl name, you have to answer that. The immigration, are you up there, daddy? You're the Minister of Security give a man a letter and tell him, say, go and tell him to give some time in the country, but he's a Jamaican, see? You hear me?
Yeah man.
And when they give him the time, the immigration officer take the letter with the Minister of Security right above them and say, oh you, lock up the youth and hold the youth in the jail. See? And it's when the youth stealing with a phone, the youth take the picture and say what go on. And the man wife go back and carry it to the radio station and to the paper, and then let go the youth undercover, right? Without them calling the immigration name. So immigration are going with big things up the daddy.
Alright, tell me something now. When you try to get enter Trinidad, when?
Well, me enter there a long time.
Yeah.
You saw me I say? And them say we must come in and look over papers because we're there a long time.
So you get through when you go look for your papers?
No, them all and just dip you.
So you never get to do what you want to do in Trinidad because them all at the same time?
Yeah.
And how long you stay?
6 years.
So you're working at the country for 6 years?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm a youth and everything, and they say, well, you must come now for paper, do your paperwork, right? For you because you're there long now and you're right. Your time right.
So you
right
was one of the recent people who
yeah,
tried.
Man.
When that?
Well, about a month ago now.
Oh.
Yeah, man. But I grown them put up to sleep. You see me I talk about and the food daddy, the treatment daddy, me I tell you, when Jamaican I go through there, they have a book when me write daddy, can me get what on them cheap my phone come with the video some things. But me have a book when me write down what them do. You see, the man all deport as student. In a December they tell you to come back for time. You go back for time because they shuffle the new Prime Minister there, right? New thing and you go back for time. And you go again and you go back for time and you go again. Them tell you to come back. So when you go, they're looking at your book and say, oh, you overstay and hold you and deport you. Remember, them tell you to come back, you know.
So you have a youth down at Trinidad as we speak?
Yeah, man. And we ask them, man. Yeah, man. Yes, them no business with that. Them no business with that. You understand? The man, the immigration man does a deport and I tell us, no care. Him not like Jamaican. Him tell us straight. You see me?
So you spoken to the foreign ministry out here? Who you get statement out here?
Well, that's what I'm doing. Me I gear up everybody and me I try because me go all the radio station and me can't get through with nobody. And yesterday in the area from the whole day stand up, you know, and I security give me the number, you know, right? Because I'm come here on and I try to go. You understand?
All right, let me ask you this. Have you made contact with the Jamaican foreign ministry?
No, because that's what I'm asking how it go. You understand?
Oh. Because you know they make a statement today.
Yeah, but them don't gonna talk. Them don't know what go on and I tell about food. Them don't know what go on, you know that. Because you see the minister of the representative, him neither go on with nothing, you know that. Him don't gonna chat, you know, him don't gonna yam up him food and I eat some Jamaican money. Him not go on with nothing, you know. Him neither represent you, you know. You understand? Yeah, commissioner, you know.
So who they represent you? Nobody at all?
Nobody. They're not business with you neither. Them just eat up what they mean, so them fire them. I go fire him since the new minister here coming in Jamaica. Them not represent you. Them represent themselves. You understand? Me I tell you things are going that y'all have man who get time to come out. The man put all man get notorious Not tourist bad man up there in a prison, you know. When I go and bust up while they're head, you know. A container, and in the earring, you have then give you earring. And you know, your earring will then give you 1 hour earring, you know. And you have to wash. You have to wash, bathe and play if you want in that hour, you know. A fire broke out up there one day. And you know them to tell us if you come out and evacuate. You know what they do? They lock up back all the Jamaicans and everybody in it. You know, the cell, you know. And fire broke out, you know.
You see yours?
I tell you, if the fire get big, I kill every man. You understand?
Hero, I want you to come back tomorrow, you know, because we're supposed to have some people tomorrow to talk to on the stepping razor. We're trying to make contact down there to get some more clarity as to what's going on, because we keep hearing these things, but then again when we reach the diplomatic level, it kind of pretty it up. Just it up away, like, you know, so
that's something I talk about. That's something I talk about. Understand? I have to go link you back because you see, Jamaican youth up there suffer that. You see me I talk about. And when they deport you, at them for right here, you buy your ticket in a which you don't know, you're not gonna wait that long. But then I send back the bill to the Jamaica, what they call this? The Jamaican, they have a European nation, European something in Jamaica, yeah, they send the bill and say, them buy ticket for you. Not gonna say no. See, here with the immigration man, all are youth. And the youth just ask them, my man a crime man, you know, him overstay. Let me go for my clothes and my money. You hear my man say, at Jamaica, at Trinidad money, at Trinidad clothes, the people them wear their clothes and spend their money. And send out the man same way, you know. Them not carrying feet, you know. You see?
Yo, come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow in the afternoon. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll be here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, man.
In smoking sense a million, you gotta give thanks and praise unto the Almighty Lord God Jah. Oh yeah, do it, Jah. Murder. Yeah. In smoking sense a million, you gotta give thanks and praise unto the Almighty Lord God Jah. Oh yeah, do it, Jah. Murder. Mekanda, making up, him name Jehovah, Jaman Mekanda, making up, him name Jehovah. Him inspire me to be a mic chanter. Me mass with the mic around the amplifier. Me fling when the slackness gone, no one culture. They conscious lyrics and go hear me utter. So if you want an adult or a teenager, say every day you wake, you feel read a chapter. Beginning of wisdom is the fear of Jah. The bottomless pit make we throw Lucifer. They take away we gold jam and them take me silver. Them hang me poopa and rape me mother. Then ship me from the wonderful land of Africa. This slave in the plantation owner. They take away we name jam and them call me nigga. The bungo word we no eyes are coming measure. They tell we say we ignorant and inferior, and all them intelligent and superior. Through the complexion of them skin color. But I as a youth born as a super, me better than the bite from a tarantula. You hear from me voice a come through the speaker, but it sounds sweeter with the echo chamber. Say R for the road, C for the culture. Say S for Selassie, earth right for ruler. Say once as a lamb going to the slaughter. Now the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. You can't enter Zion with a bushmaster, a M16 or a revolver. Set on a Babylon with your ammunition. Cause this are the ultimate destruction. Pop and Levi on the version. Hail Jamana, I Levi on the version. How me stay? Jaman me cool, not stop like you. Me walk for the streets, don't go on for food. I ride for the dance, make me tool. Hit for tail, just sit in a stool. Don't black me brown, don't black me ribs and me chest, me spider me back. Trousers a pocket a flap with soul of rock, but reggae me chat. Cap on no buck of the buck on no cap on the bottom of bass and treble at top. We hot, no cold, no hot. Electricity can give you a shock. No free for the mouse, no free for no rat. Start for the bottom, me reach to the top. Heat on the snap, the crack of the pop. Me run to the tide if we cut the crap. The young grad, yeah, me no eat a snack. Come from ya, you me no score no pot. Feel me a dread, me edit no plot. No live in a house, me live in a flat. A lot of you when this rhythm drop, your head, your toe, your body a rock. From me for the mic, salary got up. Bus slap, sabat, I'm a touch up a top. African and a fi iron ice pot. In time of trouble, Jah not turning back. Me pray to Jack, me never will stop. Who worship Satan a foolish idiot. Jah blow bread, the devil cannot. Who get a bullet, no Mr. Sadat. After Reagan public fire shot, Malcolm X take it on the spot. Up in a Zion singer, a sugar miner. The mothers comedian, a Kenny Everett. Dracula turn in a vampire back, but when him see son, him can't take that. You them that for use contact, but I'm on the mic is leave a chat. Not so long, Jah walk from the land. The peace so righteous as the man. Dreaded the Maccabee in him hand. Preaching love to man and woman. Him crucified by the Roman. Then they live to cross 3 foot on a man. Rise again, the resurrection. With a him create the earth in heaven. Take 6 days, not take 7. Give riches to King Solomon. Make him wiser than all other man. He's gonna make without a dam. Living in Babylon as a black man with army fierce is racialism. When me weak, then set up me strong. When me right, then set up me wrong. True me no jet, me politician. No care who win the election. Pandemic, me please everyone. Flashing down, style of fashion. Me God, me king.
Bless. Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, man. You're on.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, I've been listening to Sir Hilary Beckles.
Yes.
And even that little man who was speaking about light and darkness afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, one of my concerns is indeed reparations for black people. Not from a Rastafari point of view, because I'm not a Rastafari.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Christian, born and grown, and accept the faith myself. But I'm not one who is just heavenly minded with no earthly use. I believe that we need to, we have to be all things unto all men.
Yes.
And I like to look into the scriptures to see what God's purpose is for all of us, all nations, all peoples, all individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And what I notice in the scriptures is that God's own, the chosen people, they were enslaved like we black people. And their journey is similar to ours.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to let people know, from what I see in the scriptures, until we black people as a whole reach out to the creator of heaven and earth, who resides in the thick darkness, we're not going to get the prosperity that and the true liberation that we're seeking.
I hear you, but remember, that was one of the planks on which we suffered enslavement,
One of the what?
One of the planks on which we suffered enslavement through the same Christian principles and philosophies.
You get it that way?
Yeah, I remember.
Christianity is a complex thing,
Yeah,
but remember also that it was
Christianity was used to justify slavery.
Remember, your history will show you that in Britain, a lot of the agitation was by Christian groups.
True.
The Society for the Liberation.
True, but remember on the slave ships and even on the slave plantations, you had preachers out here, who turned the eye,
That's actually Christianity is a complex thing, and we Christians acknowledge that there are some people who are wolves in sheep clothing. Some people use Christianity for their own evil purposes.
Okay.
And there are some people who are the true children of God. So you can't say Christianity as a whole. What you say now? Supported slavery, right?
No, I never said supported slavery, but it was used to justify it. That's what I was saying.
Did. And used the said Bible to justify it.
Yeah.
But the said Bible shows me a God who is just and fair, right? Some people find themselves in slavery because of their lassitude, the way they live loose and careless, right? They don't set up principles, structures, thrones, rulership, kingdoms, authority, no morals. If you live loose and just carry on like that, you'll weaken yourself, and stronger nations will dominate you, right? The children of Israel, when they went into that kind of slackness and loose living, that is how they became dominated by the Babylonians, and they were taken off into slavery. Right? When a people become loose, downgrade their own selves and so forth and so on, you know, then they become weak. So Africa was in fact a glorious place with all other kingdoms, Egypt, Ethiopia, and so on and so forth. But something must have happened. They must have fallen before they were penetrated by slavery.
No, you know, and I would, there's
because
where hello, there's where me you're going part. No.
Mm-hmm.
Because why would you say something like that?
Can you be a people strong? A strong people together, loving, love of self, love of neighbor, caring for the young, caring for the old, respect for authority, all the true values of social and moral and upright living. All these are activated and displayed and rife in a nation. And you'll be so easily penetrated by outsiders who come in.
No, but it's not. You make it sound that easy. But you know, remember, you know, African societies were feudal societies. You know,
they were what?
Feudal societies, meaning that they had their system of governance. It was working for centuries. And when you welcome visitors to your shore. You welcome visitors to your shore with good intentions, but it's not all the while the visitors come with good intentions. Them come with a lot of things. They come with trickery.
We were deceived.
Yeah, that was a very fundamental part. Deception.
That was part of it.
A very fundamental part. I mean, you ever hear the saying? I mean, they came to Africa. The missionaries came to Africa. They told us to close our eyes, and when we open our eyes, when we were praying, when we close our eyes.
So you're laying it again at the feet of some of the missionaries.
No. You saying something, and no, I am saying something too. I'm saying that we African societies. You ever heard about the book "Oh, Europe Underdeveloped Africa"?
Yes, I heard of it.
Okay, well, not even. Well, I like if you read it too.
Well, remember now, you know, when you are enslaved, you know, when a people come in and dominate you, rule you in your own land and take you where they want to take you.
No.
All kind of cards.
Coming into Africa was what? Hello, miss.
You'll be raped. You'll be castigated.
Hold on.
You'll be.
Coming into Africa to rule. Africa was a later day thing, you know. What usually happens is trading with the same African people to get slaves. That was initially what happened when European countries began to rule Africa was the Berlin Conference. That was when Europe began to have a foothold in Africa. You ever hear about the Berlin Conference yet?
Yes, all of those things.
But that was when Europe put their foot in Africa. But before that, they usually extract from Africa. But they put their foot in Africa after the Berlin Conference. So we have to make sure we have that clear.
And that was after the whole slave trade at the Ivory Coast?
Yes, remember Berlin Conference was
the slave trade had been going on, right?
Yes, I'm telling you, the slave trade was extracting from Africa, but Europe got their foot in Africa through the Berlin Conference.
Yeah, because they
got their foothold in Africa.
Penetrated and weakened.
No, they got their foothold in Africa. They got their foothold in Africa through the Berlin Conference. But before that, they were extracting people out of Africa. No, the Berlin Conference were the European countries that met in Berlin in 1885 to carve out Africa. That's why you have that's why all of those countries and all of those states
you
need to listen. Oh, you need to listen. But you need to listen.
The point.
No, but you need to listen.
The point I'm making is this. This is simple. You can take it at the familial, at the level of a community. You can take it at the level of a family. No penetration and can happen unless the family itself, the community itself, there's internal degradation and disintegration.
Yes, but I'm telling you also that it didn't start that way. It didn't start that way. It was after these things, Europe got their foothold in Africa, but before that, they were extracting out of Africa. That's what I'm trying to say.
On a fair level, on a fair basis, fair trade level? Fair trade?
Through slavery, through the minerals, through everything, but they got their foothold in Africa through the Berlin Conference, and the European countries carve out Africa themselves and
but
say, Belgium, you get
can
this.
Come into my yard and carve out nothing.
Nobody is not. Belgium is not in Africa. Belgium is in Europe. Belgium is in Germany. Hear me, Berlin is in Germany. And I'm saying that the Berlin Conference was when they met to carve up Africa, European countries. So that's why you have all of those countries named where you have the English, the French, the Spanish, the German, the Belgian people. That was when they got their foothold in Africa. But before that, they used to extract people out of Africa. And that's what I'm trying to say. I try to fight against anything where you're saying. I just tell you all things happened in a chronological order. Hello? Like she gone. Yeah, man.
Listen, people. I come and think all it just and me come. Originate my dignitary, one of your son. Balubalaba, balubalaba, yeah, yeah, balubalaba, balubalaba, yeah, yeah, just let me come, one, just let me come, you have a will for father and a will leave for none, but no wicked man can enter judge a kingdom, me look up into things and me gain wisdom, dignitary stylish and him a come from the slum, sometime Camille, I man of it done, still me, now go force me, now go pick up no gun, me now have no thinking fi go shoot me brother down car, just said we come, Lord, just said we come, but no box juice, no jive, bun, no cocaine, no rat opie.
Bless. Yes.
Good night, yeah.
Yeah, man. Run it.
My name is Bojo Aquaria, you see?
Yeah, man. You have to talk fast. Talk fast, yeah.
Oh, I call to you from St. Thomas, you see?
Yeah, man. Talk no, man.
Oh, when I say, you see, I look up on a list of the brethren, I make a speech about education. And when I say about the education level in Jamaica, you see, when I say 80% of the people are illiterate, you see, and you see the other 20% were bright, them start take side with the slave master, you know, and use the other 80%. You know, see, as Marcus Garvey said, a nation without them roots and them culture is like a tree without root. You understand?
Yeah.
I would say, you see, religion different from Christianity. You see? The lady will come and talk about religion, look why. It's not
different from spirituality.
It's religion. Religion and politics form to divide black people. You see? And it's working down here. Because remember, so we are African, you know. And we there talk English. And nobody in the government, in the school, in the university, and all these places. None of them don't want to teach that Amharic talk in the school that black people can know their own language. We are talking a different man language. We are talking the slave master language. And the slave master give you this language to talk. That means that when we talk with him, then can understand.
But we have our own language still, you know.
I know, but what I say now, I say the government people, politics and religion people, the 20% of the people were bright down in Jamaica, because I say 80% is done, you know. So I say the government people, when at the university and all these places, police and the army and in the House of Parliament, none of them no want to keep that Amharic talk down in Jamaica. Even Marcus Garvey.
So who is pushing for Amharic talk in Jamaica right now? Who is pushing? Is there a...
No, I'm not saying somebody should push or somebody pushing it, but what I'm saying, we are African. And down in Jamaica, remember say when the slave them a come to Jamaica, them we scatter from Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana till we reach Jamaica, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And remember say Jamaica, Marcus Garvey is one of the greatest man come out of Jamaica, you know. And him talk about education with black people, and them don't want Marcus Garvey to teach in a school.
Well,
because Marcus Garvey talk too much about black, and you know, like the whole heap of black something them. So what I say, even though we down here and the whole of we black, and you have labor right, you have PNP, you have church, you understand? And you have the school them. All of these people were down here, if I never Rasta, everybody blind, you know. Because some people just like eat for themselves and a drink for themselves and no business with the nation of people, you understand? You know, see, I remember say we did come here pack up in a slave ship.
Give thanks to Rastafari, man, because you know the enlightenment that is needed. If it wasn't for Rasta, wouldn't be enlightened certain way. But give thanks though.
Right now, there, eh?
We give thanks.
A long time I want to talk on the program, you know, so me buy a credit to talk on the program.
Yeah.
So the credit I really don't need to kill me. If you cut me off before credit don't have me can go and talk some more.
Talk quick. Last thing.
Last thing. So I say give thanks to Rastafari, you see? And me want to ask the church people them a question. The people them where I say them know about God and Jesus. I want to ask them if they ever see the image of a bald Jesus yet. Yeah, see, because them fight against here, you know.
You ever see an image of any Jesus yet?
Eh?
Have you ever seen an image of any Jesus yet?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, me watch it away from the crucifixion where them show you up on the TV. I will read about it in the Bible.
Okay.
You know, see. But me I say now, when they show the Jesus, the white Jesus, he have a moustache and he have a precept and he have a white ear on him head. Now out here, if it's not a ballad and a God church, people criticize and underrate you and then discriminate you once and still like just start grow look at ear on your head and on your face. Then say you're Rasta. And then say Rasta fool. And then when we take it out, Rasta is the brightest set of people in Jamaica. You know, see it?
Yeah. All right. Give thanks.
I come a thing called Jason McComb, originate my dignitary, one of your son.
Bless.
Blessings, brother.
Yes.
Blessings, brother.
Yeah, man. Bless up, man. How you doing?
Yes, my brother, brother.
Saying, respect.
Yeah, give thanks and praise, you know. Yeah, it's a powerful reason we are going tonight, you know.
Yeah, man. So
yeah, but I wonder if the woman there listen to the lecture what the man did I say first.
I don't know. I don't think so. But maybe. Why you say that? Why you say that? Why?
No, because at the same thing we're trying to defeat right now, you know. Yeah, because at the same thing make we enslave right now, you know. Remember say the same man when him SSG the slave ship when him SSG that's been coming.
Yeah, it was one of the ships that must start care of our people, yeah. Yeah, but as I was saying, you know, I mean, and she also had a point, you know, that Christianity was used to justify, was a justification foundation for slavery. But she also does say a Christian people in England did a fight for abolition too, which she have a point there, so what I try to say is that Christianity was one of the main sustenance of slavery, which is a fact. You know, is a fact. Christian the people who usually practice, the missionaries and the preachers and them something, they want the payroll of the state to do what them do. And that is why they have to turn a blind eye to many things, you know, over the years. Is a recent thing when they took them off the whole payroll of the state, you know. So Christianity do a world of bad for us as a people. We can't escape that.
Black royal for true self.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, you know, you have that to people who get up and say, see them, I blaspheme on the radio and this and that and all sort of things, you know. But if you check your facts and your history, it's not lying, me telling.
Because in my foreparents days, they won't know about this.
The same slave usually sing amazing. The same song we sing, we know as Amazing Grace, how sweet thou art, that save a wretch like me and them something. That was the main song that was sung on the slave ships by the people who practice. So it's not lie. It did it. The documents, facts that they for sure say it's true. You know, when I say Christianity don't do good, you know, and what they did over time, and especially when they do for charity and over the years and whatever, but you can't escape that part. That cannot escape.
But you and me, I got to tell you, say no, uncle. Before Rome, before name, a Christian name, right? Yeah, hear me?
Yeah, man, your dog about though.
So, remember say them deal with all of them things, you know. Modern Christianity and them things, you know. So, in with us, you know, in the 16th century, you know, them change and say Rome. Because all of them things we see what go on, you know. Them things were set up long time from those long days to go on.
All right. Check in for instance now. The Muslim extremists them that are create havoc in the world now. The extremists them, the Muslim extremists them. It's the same thing the Christian extremists them usually do in the 14th and 15th century, you know. The same type of killing, the same type of lynching, the same type. This is the same thing that it's just at the table stir now where one set of people make it look like, you know, this set of people is one of the most set of evil people ever come on the earth and them. But it's the same thing Christianity usually do in the 14th and 15th century. The extreme, especially the extremists them. When I talk about the conscious one, them know the extremists. It's the same thing that Christianity usually do. You couldn't talk about any other religion in the 15th, 16th, 17th century, or else you talk about blasphemy, hang, kill, all them kind of, but it's the same thing now that the Muslim extremists them I don't know nowadays.
Still, I don't know, still right now, I mean, I don't tell you still, I will Rasta in a car. Rasta make the whole universe know them true selves, you know.
Yeah, man. All right.
Yes, my brother.
Bless. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, man, you're on.
We're on, Roger?
Yes, you're on.
Roger, just the last thing I want to say to you, you see?
Yes.
And it is the fact and it is the truth. Father God run everything on the earth, right?
Yeah. We perceive him to be still, you know.
And what him say is this, that he predicted, or his word predicted, that Ethiopia shall soon stretch forth her hand unto God. And it is, we're going to be truly liberated and get the prosperity we need, right, that we're desiring, when we stretch forth our hand, when we find find the true God, come through the mess of so-called Christianity and find the true God, right? The creator of heaven and earth, creator of you and me, and stretch forth our hand and call out to him. When the children of Israel were leaving Egypt, the Bible said it was God himself who gave them favor so that the Egyptians could get reparation from the Egyptians for the years of slavery. It was God himself who gave them the favor so that the Egyptians could do it. Right? If we call out to God, he will give us the favor. so that Britain will just have to turn out our pockets and give us reparation for the years of slavery of our people.
So you know no problem with the Muslim I call and dear God do, and the Indian I call and dear God. And
as
what
you were saying, you know, Christian, some so-called Christians in the past persecuted a whole lot of people and millions were killed. And we know that group. And they have said that they have confessed that they have done wrong and they have repented and changed their ways. Right? They did it in the past. Right? So that's the Christian is a complex thing. Right? Because, hello?
Yeah, man.
We're facing an adversary who wants to take God's place. So it is his purpose to confuse everything. Right? But people who really understand God will know the truth, and the truth will set them free.
All right, man. Give thanks.
Blessings.
All right. Lady determined, you know.
All people tell stories to make themselves feel good. And there's nothing wrong with that, so long as you are clear about what you are doing. The Hebrews copied African stories to make themselves feel good and said that was us. Then we come down and believe it. When the story of Joseph and Mary, and I've personally seen it, in the Great Lodge of Luxor, was carved in stone. And the story existed 2,000 years before Abraham arrived. The story of Cain and Abel is an old African story, was an old African story before they got there. And there's a whole book of flood stories. Everybody, every culture has its flood story. Now, the Bible is not less a Bible and not less holy because it is part fiction, part history, and part folklore. It is still a book of inspiration. It is still a book of spirituality. And you can separate one thing from the other and keep it. I didn't say throw it out. I say understand it. I think you can get more out of it by understanding it. And what I'm saying is that the Hebrews copied African folklore and integrated African folklore into the book, but they personified it, saying this happened to us, when in fact it didn't happen to them at all. They merely said it happened to them. All right, now, when they had to face the Pharaoh, who knew not Joseph, and when he said, those of you who wish to obey African law may stay. Those of you who do not wish to obey African law will have to go. Those are the ones who left Africa. Now that's the origin of the essence. All the Jews did not leave Africa because some of them said that they could stay and live under African law. Jews remained in Africa. Some of them were there when the Romans arrived thousands of years later. Now, the Exodus is one of the best known stories in human history. And there is not one iota of proof that it occurred. The Bible is not less holy because of it, but this is a part of Hebrew myth. And it is a good story to teach faith. Whether it is true or not, it is a good teaching lesson. Why can't we draw the lesson from it and stop worrying about whether it's true? Now, if you know the geography of Africa, you know that was a 16-mile land bridge connecting Africa with Western Asia. When the Jews came in, they walked in. They could have walked out. So they didn't have to leave by water at all. And if they left by water, they would have to leave further down. And if they left that way, then they would end up in Yemen. It doesn't go with the geography. Look at the geography. Look at where the land, this is before the Suez Canal. Thousands of years before. Look, the Christian story is one of the most beautiful stories in the history of the world, but you have to separate one thing from the other and keep the story. Don't throw out the story because it is mixed with a whole lot of things that are questionable. You can enhance the story by understanding it and understanding to what extent the story is embellished by folklore. All right, now, 70 people came in. 70 Hebrews came in. 600,000 goes out and still leaves some. Would 70 people create that many people, even if they spend all time creating people? So what we have here is that a lot of Africans, not ethnically Hebrew, became converted to the faith. And they were of another religious persuasion, but not of another ethnic persuasion. And then at this time, religion was so sharp in the minds of each people. Sometimes a religious person in one religion didn't feel as safe as he thought he should. Those religious tolerance was much better then than it is now. All right, now what did they take out of Africa? They came into Africa without a clear language, without a clear religion, and without a clear culture. When they left, they had all three. Africa had made the Hebrews a people. The early Hebrews became a people and entered history through Africa. And you do not have to argue about whether they were white, black, or otherwise. The only whites who entered the area were Greeks and Romans. Right. So now if you want to figure out where the white Jew came from, that's the problem. The European white Hebrew is nothing but a European belatedly converted to the faith. In the 12th century AD, there was arguments in Europe because the Africans and the Arabs were controlling Spain and the Mediterranean. There was arguments for whose fight you're going to join, the Arabs or the Christians. And there was a group of people who didn't want to join either one of them. They sought an alternative, and they chose Judaism. So the Caucasian Jew is just a European who chose Judaism. And he has no ethnic relationship to the biblical Jew at all.
Now big quest to a nice and decent people. I come to think call it just and me come. Originate my dignitary, one of your son. Balu balaba, ya area. Balu balaba, ya area. Just let me come, go on. Just let me come. You have a wonderful father and a whole heap of none. But no wicked man can enter judge a kingdom. Me look up into things and me gain wisdom. Dignitary, stylish, and him a come from the sun.
FM really rocking, you know.
just said we come, but no box juice, no dry bun, no cocaine, no opium. Nobody use your nose like a vacuum. No matica, me say no magnum. No heroin, me say no white rum. Look into things and you begin wisdom. Well, them the thing will make your body come down. Just said we come, Lord. Just said we come, Well, Jah is so good and me say Jah is so great. And in that Jah, how when me put me faith and sensible things and me say when me penetrate now. Just said we come, Lord. Just said we come, but Jah love him enemy and Jah love him friend. A long time Jah me say did I want them. Say from Nazareth and me say back to Bethlehem. And then they make a move up in a Jerusalem. And all over the world me this I preach it to them. Say in a Jah I will me put me confident. And anywhere me go me have enough argument. Say nicest guarantee ya 100%. Yes, Jah said we come, Lord. Jah said we come, but on the rhythm when me come fi sit down. The rhythm when me sit down at the computer dumb. Well it's a dignitary with the lyrical tongue. Me black it up arena, me say hope I stay dumb. The last piece me black it up and then be sure ground. But Jah said we come, yes. Jah said we come, but some of them are father, me say some of them are not. Anyway.
Bless.
Yes. Roger.
Yes.
Yes, greetings, man. It's Mandingo.
Mandingo, where sir?
Yeah, this Thursday, the 14th of April 2016.
Yes,
and
man.
I need a number for you,
Yeah, man.
So tell me how I can get that. What after the show or what?
When you're done, call about the operator and she'll give.
Okay, all right, yeah. Yes, very interesting talk. You know, I was hearing the male and the female just before speaking.
Yes.
And it shows the tremendous miseducation that African people have.
See, we not serious
in terms of this Christian Bible and by extension this thing with the Arab Muslims, because both the Europeans use the Christian Bible, use Christianity as a vehicle for enslave and still enslave the miseducated minds of Africans.
Right.
Those Africans who are miseducated.
Yeah, man.
And the Arabs use Islam to do the same thing to Africans.
Yeah.
Take for example now that female who you said very determined and so on. You notice she does what these Christians do, referring to the Creator as Father God. That means that there is no female involved, The Creator could never be any he or no Father God business. Where is the matter? How can you have creation
without
the combination of the male and the female?
Right.
And we are made in the image and likeness of the Creator. The Creator, and I don't use the word God because that's a German word meaning superhuman being. You see, that they don't know. You see, that they use words because of indoctrination. And this Christianity, as you and I know, Raja, and others who are mentally free, came to us by the very same people who came to Africa, robbed, raped, enslaved, and are still doing the same.
Come to us under deception.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And irrespective of any so-called good that some Christians have done. You know them have the saying about the devil side scripture to suit themselves, is that Christianity was simply used as a tool and still is used as a tool to keep African people in mental, spiritual, economic and political slavery.
The song Amazing Grace, Remember the song Amazing
by an
Grace?
enslaver by the name of Newton.
Yes.
He was an enslaver who used to go to Africa in his ship and enslave African people.
And it's one of the most popular...
of our people don't know.
It's one of the most popular Christian hymns right now.
Exactly. I want to tell you, more popular than Oh Great Thou Art.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
You know, Sanchez sang it over, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, and this is why there's a singer here originally from Jonestown by the name of Junior English. He has an album out, and him have a tune named Teach the Youths, you know, which is very, very important, Junior English, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is that all this thing that she was referring to about in Egypt and how the Egyptians enslaved, this is a total lie. There is absolutely no record in Egyptian, the proper name is Kimishan, history of any Moses and any flight from any so-called Egypt, Kimitan thing. Never existed. And they never built any pyramids. There's no record. And you know, Roger, as a scholar too, that the Egyptians documented everything in the temples, in the manuscripts, etc. Yes, exactly. And they document both the good and the bad that has happened. So this story about Moses leading children of Israelite out of thing is a lie. It never occurred. And for those of them who, because I know that they're listening, who have been shocked by what I'm saying, read the works of my friend, Dr. Professor Joseph Ben Buchanan. Read his works. It's a book about the African origins of Judaism, Christianity and Islam, and it other works. No such thing. It's Moses' business, and with Israelites.
Well, you say a whole lot of people don't even know that Christianity, it was formed 300 years after Christ did.
Precisely.
According to how the thing go, at the Council of Nicaea, that's also when the whole leaders come together.
The Roman Emperor Constantine at Nicaea. Yes, and then
Council of Nicaea,
yes, and then people who did not agree. And Nicaea is in present day Turkey, you know. It wasn't called Turkey at the time.
Yes.
Because the Turks were not in control. It was part of what was later to become the eastern half of the Roman Empire. But at the time it was one, the western part and the eastern part connected, and the capital at Istanbul that he called it Constantinople. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know. But this and it shows you the ignorance. And ignorance is enslaving. Ignorance is you have those Africans too who are Muslims who do the same fanatical thing. Up to yesterday I was reading where in Nigeria, Boko Haram, most of the suicide bombers that they use are little young girls, 7 and 8 years old, you know. Evil.
Yeah, man.
Serious
level of brainwashing, man.
8-year-old wicked.
Serious level of brainwashing.
To be killing Africans who don't agree with them. And the thing about both people who are Muslims and people who are Christians is that they both fight against African religions and African spirituality.
Yes, they call that paganism. Them find all the most derogatory names.
Says pagan and exactly, and I can bet this is what they vex about. For example, the Yoruba people in West Africa, mostly found in Nigeria and some in Benin and places like that. The name for the creator is Olorun, Olorun, or Olodumare, Olodumare. In the language of the Yoruba, in the language of the Igbo, which is in southeast Nigeria. And my grandmother had an Igbo name because I am part Igbo descent and also part Ashanti descent.
Yes.
The name of the creator is Chuku. Now, Roger and other Africans in Jamaica listening, you remember growing up, we have some of our man them in Jamaica. Them so-called nickname is Chuku. You remember?
Chuku. Yeah, man. That's true, man.
You check it. But most people do not know. The name Chuku is an Igbo African word meaning the creator.
See there?
But what happened is that we had to do it as so-called nickname. Because remember,
we get across
we were
the message,
forbidden to speak our languages, On pain of death, we would be executed because they never want us to have our African languages, our Yoruba, our Igbo, and that type of
Yeah,
thing.
they want us to talk like them, but we also...
So that they could know what we thinking, because them don't want us to be able to plan to say, well, tonight we're going to rise up, and kill these enslavers and that type of thing. So English was forced on us.
And I saw the patois come out now, because,
Yes, the so-called patois, that I call it Jamaican, meaning the language of the African in Jamaica. Take, for example, you know, again, you have some people in Jamaica, you call them Dodo.
Yeah, and Dodo.
All right,
yeah.
you did have all a brethren named Dodo Blinds and Dodo Blacks.
Mm.
The word Dodo, D-U-D-U, is a Yoruba word from Nigeria, mean black.
See that?
Dodo mean black. All right, you know there's a next word too. You remember you have some man and some woman in Jamaica too, Africans. Them so-called nickname is Toto.
Yeah, man.
All right. You did have a long time bad man politics thing, PMP in the 60s named Toto Keith, a West Kingston. And I have a virgin, you and I go to school, Friendship Government School, my father and mother's school in Spanish Town, St. John's Road, in the 60s, by the name of Samuel Williams. But his nickname was Toto, T-U-T-U. But Toto is a Ashanti name, because one of the founders of the Ashanti as a state, the king, was Ose Toto. O-S-E-I-T-U-T-U. So, Nagozed, which you know Nagozed in St. Catherine near Britain. Nagozed is a Yoruba word.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of words that we use as names for each other, names of places that are African, but our people have to hide it and say it's nickname and thing.
And I saw it farm, and I saw it get for farm the language over the years, over the decades, and farm the words
over the years
that make up a language now. You know.
Thank you, my brother. And take for example, people will cuss us in Jamaica. You know them use as a term of abuse. Go where you come from, Moko.
Yes.
Now Moko is an African name, place name. Moko in Clarendon is an African place name. And by the way, that's where Derek Morgan, the great singer and songwriter, is from. Moko. And Derek Morgan, I'm proud to tell you that is Moko him come from.
Straight.
But you know in Jamaica, because of the thing, go where Moko you come from. Like it's something bad.
Ignorance,
Moko is an African place. Exactly. And this is why it is important for us to study our African languages like Yoruba, Tree, which is the language of the Ashanti and Fanti and so.
Because most of the patois words come from.
Yeah, because most of our African people in Jamaica, you and I and others, because remember Jamaica is an African nation.
Exactly.
Most of our people came from West Africa. So this is why these words that I'm mentioning, and there are many more words that I can mention, but I mentioned those to show, are Yoruba words, they are Ashanti words, they are Igbo words, etc.
And
this shows directly where we are coming from.
Yes.
Not Amharic. Amharic is way over the east in Ethiopia and that type of thing. And talking about Rasta, I heard the male caller saying, is Rasta make the world know themselves? Oh, nonsense. African teachers, long before Rasta, have been teaching African people to know themselves. And the greatest of them all is none other than Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Exactly.
The greatest African leader who founded the largest African organization in history. And people get this thing twisted about the psalmist saying Ethiopia shall stretch forth his hands to thing. What happens is that Ethiopia is simply another word for the entire continent of Africa.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. Ethiopia is not the state. No, that's a recent name change that they use it for a particular state in Northeast Africa. The word Ethiopia simply means, it's a Greek word coming from Greek. meaning land of the burnt faces, meaning dark people, black people. That's all it means. And Africa is an indigenous term. Africa is an indigenous term. Sometimes people get it mixed up and say name after a Roman general named Scipio. That's a lie. Scipio is his Roman name, but because he defeated Hannibal near Tunisia, that's where ancient Carthage was. You know, there's a tradition in history that if you conquer and win a battle at a place, in your title afterwards, they give. So he was called Scipio Africanus after, because that part of Africa, that is where the original term Africa comes from. That's how that come about. So the word Africa is a native indigenous word, and it means a tropical place. And my reference on that is G.K. Ose, the man who taught Dr. Joseph Benyochanan and John Henry Clark. He was a Ashanti lawyer who used to live in London, and then he went to the States and died many years ago. But he's the one who taught John Henry Clark and Dr. Joseph Benyochanan about African history, you know, and things. So, Roger, we have to do this non-stop
Yeah,
work,
we can't stop.
because religion with Christianity and Islam has been used to mentally enslave our people and to tell our people that our African religions are pagan, savage, and no good. No matter how they pretend to be nice, the Muslims and the Christians, once you say to them that, listen, I am determined to practice my African religion, I am determined to practice my African spirituality, you see how nasty and vicious they become. And it shows you that they are totally against African people.
And the earthfulest thing is that them come see you and do it.
Precisely.
Them come see you and do your thing for centuries.
For centuries.
Yeah.
And then impose everything. Look on this now then, about Christian name. There's no such thing as a Christian name. It's a European name.
Concept,
and there's
yeah.
no such thing as a Muslim name. It's an Arab name. So they use religion to destroy your culture and to destroy your language. And you know about Father God. The Creator is both male and female. Straight.
So as Bob Marley said, them all tired to see your face, them all tired for hear you say the same thing over and over, you know, until...
Yes, brother, we cannot stop, you know. We cannot stop because they are not stopping.
They're not stopping.
With the miseducation, the mental enslavement. And the thing about it is that when you look in the school systems in Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean and in Africa, it's the same kind of brainwashing and indoctrination and mental slavery is still in the syllabus. Still being taught.
Yeah, and it come back to what I said even earlier, you know, the whole capitalism and the democracy system that was imposed upon us. Anywhere you see that, anywhere you see where democracy, where black people is that them at the bottom of the pile, are they the most divided?
Always.
Anywhere
and this is no accident.
Yeah. Deliberately. It was deliberately done.
But of course it's deliberately. Because we are not in our situation as African people at home in Mother Africa and abroad, wherever we are outside of Africa, because of accident. It is deliberate. And listen, these racist Europeans and racist Arabs have never stopped in trying to keep us down as African people.
Yes.
Never. And they always have traitors working for them, and also have some of our people who are miseducated, who do not know themselves to be used by them. Because what is most important, you know, is that most Africans in the world have never read the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey.
True.
In Jamaica and outside of Jamaica. Most Africans in the world have never read The Destruction of Black Civilization by Dr. Tony Martin. That explains about Marcus Garvey's organization and that type of thing.
And we can extend that and say, I mean, extend that and say most...
The Destruction of Black Civilization by Dr. Chancellor Williams, I mean. right? And most Africans in the world have not read Race First by Dr. Tony Martin, explaining about Marcus Garvey's organization. And these are the books.
I'm going to extend it to Mandingo. I'm going to extend it and say most people don't read how Europe underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney.
Precisely, whose birthday was in March, just like myself and King. No, because you see how Europe underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney is a companion to, to destruction of black civilization by Dr. Chancellor Williams.
Yes.
But the thing with it is that while Walter deal with from the 15th century coming on, Dr. Chancellor Williams deals with from thousands of years ago to now.
Yes.
So Dr. Chancellor Williams deals with the whole thing and shows what the Arabs and the Muslims did. Walter Rodney concentrate on the economic pillage and thing. But what Dr. Chancellor Williams in the destruction of black civilization does, he deals with the entire history of the race from thousands of years ago, politically, religiously, economically, and otherwise. He showed where the Hyksos as the first Asian invaders in Africa coming through Egypt, called Kemet, started. And then you had later on, the Romans, the Greeks, and the last set is the Arabs and that type of thing. The Turks were also there.
Yes.
And this word about Egypt, what a lot of people don't know, when you read in the destruction of black civilization, the relevant page, the word Egypt is a mistake the ignorant, uneducated Greeks made. What happened is that one of the names of the creator is Ptah, P-T-A-H, in Kemet, Egypt, which is the original name, meaning land of the black people. And the other word, Ikupta, meaning mansion of the soul of Ptah. So what happened is that the uneducated and dunce Greeks heard our people using it, what it meant in Kemet, and thought it meant for the entire country of Kemet. And that is how them corrupt it to just Egypt. You understand? But the word is simply meaning the mansion of the soul of Ptah, the creator. You see? But the name is for the country is Kemet. Spelled K-I-M-I-T. Some spell it K-E-M-E-T. But that's the name. You see? And we must get away from this blind slavery, mental slavery, about this Jesus Christ business. I mean, I and I, as Africans, existed thousands of years before this guy named Abraham. And Abraham is the father of who later came on both Israelites and Jew. And even the word Israelite is offensive to me, Roger, because the word Israel is a title and a blasphemous title saying one who wrestles with the Creator and win. How can you wrestle with the Creator and win? Because them said Jacob wrestled with the Creator and he won. How can a mortal being wrestle with the Almighty Creator and win? That's a total lie. And that's how them get the title Jacob of Israel. Most people who say them are Israelites don't even know what the word means. If you ask them what Israel means, they can't tell you. All they know to do is repeat about Israel and Israelites. They don't know what it means. Israel literally means one who wrestled with the Almighty Creator, said Jacob, and won. How can Jacob or any human being wrestle with the Almighty Creator who created us? That in itself is blasphemous.
Yes, Mandingo. Oh, give thanks, though. Good reasoning.
Yes, man, good reason, and keep on the good work.
Yeah,
and it's nice, smoother, Ivory Coast doing what he's doing, because our work, finally, and I'm going to phone the operator. I'll phone the operator after to get the number.
Yeah, man, definitely.
But my final thing, African people in Jamaica and elsewhere, and big up to my brethren, Everard, Wildman Street, Cool Walks, and my brethren and sisters from St. John's Road, Spanish Town, all over, all 14 parishes of Jamaica, is that it, as Marcus Garvey said, it is not where you are as an African in the world that is important. It is what you do.
Exactly.
Because we have traitors in Africa, we have traitors in the Caribbean, we have traitors in the States, Canada,
and Europe, everywhere.
and we have soldiers and freedom fighters in the same places. So it is not where you are, because you can go to a place and you're still doing your dirty works. It is what you do that counts.
Yes,
because anywhere African is in the world is a part of Africa. That so rather anywhere you go on the planet Earth, you are carrying part of Africa with
Definitely.
you.
Straight.
I likewise. Anywhere African is Africa that in motion. So my brother, keep on doing the non-stop
Yes,
work, and
man.
I'll phone the operator right after.
Yes, Inglar, respect.
Every time, respect.
To a nice and decent people. I come and think all the just said me come. Originate my dignitary, one of just son. Balu balaba, ya area. Balu balaba, ya area. Just said me come, go on. Just said me come. You have a will for the and a will leave for none. But no wicked man can enter judge a kingdom. Me look up into things and me gain wisdom. Dignitary stylish and him a come from the slum. Sometime Camille, I man off it done. Still me now go force me now go pick up no gun. Me now have no thinking fi go shoot me brother down car. Just said we come, lad. Just said we come, but no box juice, no jive, bun, no cocaine, no rat opium. No bother use your nose like a vacuum. No matica, me say no mag, no heroin, me say no white rum. Look into things and you begin wisdom. Well them the thing will make your body come down. Just said we come, lad. Just said we come. Well Jah is so good and me say Jah is so great. And in that Jah, when me put me faith and sensible things and me say when me penetrate now. Just said we come, lad. Just said we come. But Jah love him enemy and Jah love him friend. A long time Jah me say did I want them. Say from Nazareth and me say back to Bethlehem. And then they make a move up in a Jerusalem. And all over the world me this I preach it to them. Say in that Jah when me put me confident. And anywhere me go me have no argument. Say nice is guarantee you 100%. Yes, just said we come, lad. Just said we come. But on the rhythm when me come fi sit down. The rhythm when me sit down at the computer dumb. Well it's a dignitary with the lyrical tongue. Me black it up arena, me say hope I stay dumb. The last space me black it up and then be sure ground. But just said we come, yes. Just said we come. But some of them are father, me say some of them are not. Anyway,
well I've seen many world leaders, many heads of state, but none of them impress me. Like when I was youth, post 6, 7, 8 when King Selassie I visit 1966, so tight Rasta for safe. Lord, the visit of the King Selassie I, Lord, it was the year 1966 when Selassie I made a visit. Me say Rasta make the wicked them look like rubbish. Go on, thousands of people judge and know the crowd take. It was good weather but the rain did a drip. Me say every dreadlock I burn up a cliff. Say when they plane land me hear the Rasta music. Say rain stop fall, rainbow come quicker. And on the plane wing a flock of white bird pitch. Selassie come out with him lion and him stick. In a military clothes with the sword on him hip. He was a small man about 4'6". Babylon them have to run, them couldn't stand it. Because the airport come like Rasta Day stress. Me say thousand a chalice, me say thousand a script. When Selassie I speak, him not speak English. He speak the language called the Arabic. Enough man get frightened, enough man get panic. Cause when it come to language, judge I know 56 now. Home of me yard, me reach a stadium. Figure still I say chant Babylon kingdom. Say Rasta ball head, say old and young. Say who no have no seat, them sit down pon the ground. I was a small man, but me have me wisdom. Is it fussing on me life, me see so much ganja bun. The Babylon makes them couldn't lock way down. Inside the stadium was God's only son. Him will up him and the ganja stand bun. Cause when him get up, the place turn upside down. Pure lightning and thunder round the stadium. When Selassie I come, the herb did burn. But now him gone home, them a run with dung. It named the visit of the King Selassie I. Lord, it named the visit of the King Selassie I. When, boom, it was the year 1966. In the year when Selassie visit J.A. for only 3 days. Him come in April, him no come in May. Every factory locked down, every game stop play. Man stop on cigar, man a fling with craving here. Pure sense. Well, I've seen many world leaders, many heads of state, but none of them impress me. Like when I was youth, about 6, 7 years when King Selassie I visit, 1966, so tight Rasta for safe. Lord, the visit of the King Selassie I, Lord, it was the year 1966. When Selassie I made a visit, me say Rasta make the wicked them look like rubbish. One, thousand of people judge and know the crowd take. It was good weather but the rain did a drip. Me say every dreadlock I burn up a cliff. Say when they plane land me hear the Rasta music. Say rain stop fall, rainbow come quicker. And on the plane wing a flock of white bird pitch. Selassie come out with him lion and him stick. In a military clothes with the sword on him hip. He was a small man about 4'6". Babylon them have to run, them couldn't stand it. Because the airport come like Rasta day stress. Me say thousand a chalice, me say thousand a script. When Selassie I speak, him not speak English. He speak the language called the Arabic. Enough man get frightened, enough man.
Bless.
Yeah. Hello, good night.
Good night.
Yeah. I was listening to the fella talking a while ago.
Yeah, man. Mandingo. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Trust me. A long time after that, you know, I come from New York.
Seeing.
You know what I'm saying? And I've been saying that for a long time. Yeah, man. Because mental slavery, that thing will keep us down. Among us guys said that before, so they give us Christians to keep us down. You understand?
Mm.
The thing is just, you see, New York, you have the African American kids, them. They don't like to hear the name Africa. I mean, some kids that seem they can go to school.
It's not this alone. You know, Jamaica, most black places.
They will accept the Watson and the Thompson and the Reed and these names. Where these were given to us from the plantation by the slave master. You understand? And next thing, the thing I want to come to talk about is different. It's about how the Christianity they went to Asia to try to control either China, Japan, Korea. And I say what? The Chinese them didn't accept it. They say, who accept it? Them run go at Taiwan, go hide. You know, because island after China, I'm called coast, I'm called Thailand, a China island, you know. But they accept it. And them could, you know what, man, the mainland Chinese them can't, the peasant them can't take it. So you know what them do? Them uprise. And say uprise and keep them culture. And so what, you know, China is one of the most developed country in the world. You understand? So just we as black people know, say, boy, you know, we have to come together and let go these things. You understand? Yeah. And deal with our African culture. And know, sir, who we are, where we're coming from. I think I have them don't like black people. Because if it's something like Sudan, them still have black people as slaves. You understand? So we come and come together and start read our history and start accept and know who we is. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know what, all them culture respect us as individuals. Say, boy, yes, you know what, black people are strong now. You know, forget all them colonialism there. That mess us up. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking long because I forgot the airport. But you know what? So the man tell whatever, I hope everybody will listen, understand it. You know what I'm saying? And try to read and go further. You understand? Because enough thing up there. You think that you know what I say. You understand? Yes, and don't think that I'm alone. You have enough people and listen to him and support him. You understand? But you know what? right now, like a minority, because the majority of them don't bring assurance, like it's hard to get to them.
Yeah, we set a way where boy, this mental slavery thing, we have a serious fight on our hands. And we have to just keep on doing what we have to do. Because
man.
When we keep on doing what we have to do, the same people who we are trying to liberate, them turn around by the same way. So
turn around by the same way. Right now, you know, if you notice, all the woman and man are be same skin. But kind of what they tell us that we are monkey, our ugly, all these things, black is no good. You understand? And I'll move them up. The same as the angel them as white person, demon them as black people. So I mean, everything is black is no good. You understand?
Yeah.
Everything is black is no good, Father.
Yeah, man. All right.
Yeah, man. Thanks, yeah.
Yes.
And thing, yeah, man. Respect, brother.
State, many world leaders, many heads of state, but none of them impress me. Like when I was youth, about 6, 7 years when King Selassie I visit, 1966, so tight Rasta for safe. Lord, the visit of the King Selassie I, Lord, it was the year 1966, when Selassie I made a visit. Me say Rasta make the wicked them look like rubbish. One, thousand of people judge and know the crowd take. It was good weather but the rain did a drip. Me say every dreadlock I burn up a cliff. Say when the plane land me hear the Rasta music. Say rain stop fall, rainbow come quicker. And on the plane wing a flock of white bird pitch. Selassie come out with him lion and him stick in a
Bless.
Hello, what going on, Roger?
Tell me now.
A Christmas a year again, you know.
Yeah, man, you have a cut and go through, you know.
Yeah, you know, say I'm Monday on my birthday.
Happy birthday, man.
Yeah, man, me I go be 48, you know.
Happy birthday, man.
I'm born 68, I'm born 18. Say 3 years I come family this year, right, you know.
All right, sir.
So me I say, boy, me hear the people who kill Christmas, you know. Because when I read Psalm 68, it says, "May Jah arise, let his enemy be scattered. As smoke away drivel, them away so wax melt before the presence, the wicked before the presence of God." So me I say, he wax me in the candle. And if you go see turn off your head and see a woman get mad, I don't like when you see candle melt right down, you know.
All right, sir.
So Jesus, so the Christmas is a man where now I go see a woman mad, I don't like. I know saying have the power to really make him look good in my heart.
Yes, sir.
So they shouldn't kill the Christmas man.
All right, sir.
I'm born in me, I tell the Rasta say people, them run what they are going to my uncle, funeral, my floor, they wicked and coming from me.
Bless.
Yeah, I say half of us is in the black man side and half is in the white man side. Because the black man really have a flat nose. But some of us are brown. And some of us, our nose are straight. So half of us are from the black and half of us are from the white. So it's hard for us to get into the African thing back straight. That may I say, you know?
All right, sir.
All right.
Many world leaders, many heads of state, but none of them impress me. Like when I was youth, about 6, 7 years when King Selassie I visit, 1966, so tight Rasta for safe. Lord, the visit of the King Selassie I, Lord, it was the year 1966, when Selassie I made a visit. Me say Rasta make the wicked them look like rubbish. One, thousand of people judge and know the crowd take. It was good weather but the rain did a drip. Me say every dreadlock I burn up a cliff. Say when the plane land me hear the Rasta music. Say rain stop fall, rainbow come quicker. And on the plane wing a flock of white bird pitch. Selassie come out with him lion and him stick in a military clothes with the sword on him hip. He was a small man about 4'6". Babylon them have to run, them couldn't stand it because the airport come like Rasta Day strip. Me say toes and a chalice, me say toes and a strip. When Selassie I speak, him not speak English. language. Speak the language called the Arabic. Enough man get frightened, enough man get panic. Cause when it come to language, judge I know 56 now. Home of me yard, me reach a stadium. Figure still I say chant Babylon kingdom. Say Rasta ball head, say old and young. Say who no have no seat, them sit down pon the ground. I was a small man, but me have me wisdom. Is the first thing of my life, me see so much ganja bun. The Babylon makes them couldn't lock way down. Inside the stadium was God's only son. Him will up him and the ganja start bun. Cause when him get up, the place turn upside down. Pure lightning and thunder round the stadium. When Selassie I come, the herb did burn. But now we've gone home, them a run with dung. It named the visit of the King Selassie I. Lord, it named the visit of the King Selassie I. When, boom, it was the year 1966. In the year when Selassie visit J.A. for only 3 days. Him come in April, him no come in May. Every factory locked down, every game stop play. Man stop on cigar, man a fling with craving here. Pure sense him in a cliff and Charlie Spoon all day. Ethiopian Orthodox and 12 tribe drum and play. Say thousands of people line up along the highway. Heads of government, police, parliamentarians. When Selassie show himself, every man start pray. Say 10,000 ganja pipelines right away. 21 guns salute immediately for the greatest king to ever visit J.A. Him always have him lion, him no trod one away. This sword pon him hip glisten like sun. It named the visit of the King Selassie I. Lord, it named the visit of the King Selassie I. And dedicated to New York, Natty Dread. And dedicated to London, Congo Dread. And dedicated to Jamdong now.
Mama
Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 kuya. If I dem a talk about come me now, who ya? If I dem a talk about come me now, who ya? Tell them say you're African order, boy. Tell them say you're African order. Wait, this is people language on ya. Wait, you yonder, you kwanda, you chini wanka. You chibon sanja, you can't code. Malembe panja, malembe boat, malembe visa, malembe ken, mundungo, bakanaro. Me Babylon, me say come chikuno, me say kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 kuya. No for them a talk about come me now, who ya? No for them a talk about come me now, who ya? Tell them say African order, move. Tell them say African order, boy. It is people language on ya. Wait, tell them say African order, move. It is people language on ya. Wait, you yarn, you fall, you chini wango. People sign, you can't code. Malembe panya, malembe boot, malembe visa, malembe king. Who will learn from the old grandfather? Who will learn from the dead ancestor? Who will learn from the takini mi auntie? Help me to sing the song ya. Boy, mono gandhi yo, no gandhi yo, mono 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 gandhi yo. Boy, kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 kuya. No for them a talk about come me now, who ya? No for them a talk about come me now, who ya? Tell them say African order, move. Tell them say African order, boy. Tell them say African order, one. Malembe panga, malembe boat, malembe visa, malembe cake. Munungo, una bacana round, una me Babylon, me say come chikuno. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 kuya. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 kuya. No for them a talk about put me now, who ya? No for them a talk about put me now, who ya? Tell them say African order, move. Tell them say African order, boy. Who me learn from me dead ancestor? Who me learn from me grandfather? Who me learn from me grandfather? Who me learn from me pretty me auntie? Help me to sing the song ya, move. Help me to sing the song ya, boy. Quali, quali, one and then Bele Colon, Kisada ya, Bable Kele, Dele Kele, Louis Akwenda, put up your lampe, your lampe, put up 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 your lampe, boy, kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 kuya. For them a talk about come me now, who ya? For them a talk about come me now, who ya? Tell them say African order, wait. Tell them say African order, boy. This is people language on ya, wait. You yonder, you kwanda, you chini wango. You chibon sanja, you can't code. Malembe panja, malembe boat, malembe visa, malembe king, mundungo, bakanaro. Una me Babylon, me say come chikuno. Me say kuya, 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 me say come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 kuya. Hello, come in that African culture. Hello, come in that king bacho culture. Hello, come in that king bacho culture. Tell them to go listen this harder, oh. Tell them to go listen this harder, boy. Tell them to go listen this harder, boy. Come from down the Congo, hear me. Tell them to go listen this harder, oh. Come from down the Congo, boy. Kuya, 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 kuya. Wangaga mamore, wangaga mamore, wangaga mamore. Come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 kuya. No for them a talk about come me now, who ya? Yeah. Kuya, as we put on with Jumbo and them a talk about a hobby, I want this father. Them don't know say African order. Hey, I want do them. Kuya, 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 come listen to me now. Kuya, 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 come.
Yeah, man, I eat this for the cutting edge tonight, you know. Yeah, man, Roger Asphalt here holding the fort for Muta. He should be back next week, you know. So, you know, just filling in and doing my thing. And, you know, trying to portray the same message of African liberation because, you know, them I got tired for hear we say the same things over and over and over again. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery because none but yourself shall free our minds. And that's the message of the cutting edge over the years and it's remained the same. And, you know, I want to thank O'Brien and Tracy for, you know, being with us tonight. So that's it for the cutting edge tonight. Rolling out with some more King Basho Kumina. Yeah. And up next is the man Matrix